we go, boys and girls.
I can't
Here we
hear.
are. What do you mean you can't
Yep.
hear? Can't you hear? Hello, boys and girls. How are you? My name is Tim, and I am your truth slinger tonight, coming at you on a Sunday evening at 9 p.m., just about on the dot-a-rooney, on September 15th. And what makes today so very important is that there has been a second attempt on the President of the United States. And so we're going to have a spaces about that tonight. That's what we're going to do, right? So what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you, because that's the kind of guy I am. I like to learn people stuff, right? We're going to teach you, learn you how to do an X spaces over here. So what we're going to do is turn this here window on so as we can see it, right? And if you click these little dots down here, these three little dots down here, in a minute, let's click over here on this space. You click down here, these three little dots, you get this window, create your space. So I'm only going to invite people you invite to speak. I'm going to record this space because we didn't do that last night. Should have done that. We're not going to get to know spaces. We're just going to jump right the hell in, and we're going to load her up. And ba-bam. Okay, so I'm going to take my mute off. I'm going to invite some people, invite speakers. There's nobody listening yet. People just have to pop in, right? That's the way it works. So we're live, and we're going to talk about the assassination attempt again, number 2 on El Presidente, Donald Trump. So we're just going to tap dance until someone shows up. And, okay, here we go. Here we go again. That's right. Colette, Real Talk is in the house. Somebody's, must be, yeah. She's going to jump in at some point. I don't have any idea how to send out invitations to people. Do you?
Oh.
I don't.
For spaces? Or
Yeah. Well, we've got a listener, right? We got a J6er lawyer Galoot in the house, right? So, hey, good to have you. Just hang around. We're going to have a good time talking on Outlaw Radio tonight about the Trump assassination attempt number 2. Goonie Bin's in the house. So we're going to invite a co-host here for the moment. We'll invite Goonie Bin. He's in. We'll do that. And ta-da, he's in. Uh-oh, where did I go? Where's my spaces? Where am I? There it is. Oh my goodness, I hate this already. We got one request.
maximize the screen.
Maximize the screen.
Oh.
Yeah, see what I mean? Oh, wait, make this go down. Ah, there we go.
Oh my God.
I know, right? This
Wow.
is so complicated.
It's so hard because we're old.
Oh, don't say that. I'm not that
Old. I used to be like so techie.
All right,
I
so
was
let me
like
try this
the
again. Let me
techie.
try this again. All right, so approve. We got a request to speak. I'm going to invite a co-host, send an invitation. I think we're going to get there. We might do this soon enough. Okay, we don't need that big anymore. So where's my spaces? Why am I looking at the Goonie Bin, right? Not that I don't love the Goonie Bin. The Goonie Bin is awesome. So we're just going to have to move this. Oh, God, I don't know. Can't see the people. We want to see the people down there. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to wait for Colette to get in the house. She's going to co-host as well, but we got the Goonie Bin. He's going to be co-hosting with me tonight. We got 2 listeners. Yeah, we got another one. Real Corn Pop in the house.
Hey.
It's good to see you, buddy.
You got to do a video with them.
Yeah, well, Nick, yep. Definitely got to do that, man. We got to get you on the show, bro. So, yeah, I did a live earlier tonight, man, and I was really, really, really kind of infuriated with what's going on. And we watched, was it MSNBC? What was her name? Alex Witt?
Alex,
Or is
D. Witt.
Oh, my God.
And then Lester Holt did the same thing.
Oh, Lester Holt did the same. Well, Lester Holt decided, oh, no. We should go over to Springfield, Ohio, and cover all the The bomb threats that are going on in Springfield because of what? Because of who? Because of the Trump campaign and all the hateful rhetoric that's coming out against the dogs and the cats in Springfield, Ohio. So yeah, it's I think at this point we need to start talking about not having the standard Secret Service issue protection around Donald Trump. That's my feeling. I know that that's Colette's feeling. And, I think that probably that's going to be a number of people are going to be saying the same thing. Hey, Jeff, how are you? It's good to have you in the house. So anyway, what's going on, Ron? Can you hear? Rob. Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God.
Oh, I can't believe you did that.
I'm stuck. I'm gonna be
Yes, I can hear you, and thank you for screwing up my name once again there with Truth Slayer.
Truth Slayer.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
He feels really bad.
I'm gonna bake you a cake or something. I don't know. Shit, I gotta figure this
Bake him
crap
some
out.
bread.
I'm gonna stay awake all night now. I'm gonna feel bad about this. Oh my God.
Good, you should.
Rob. So anyway, I don't know where Colette is. I don't know if we're showing up on the right side. Last night when we went on Spaces, we weren't showing up on the right. Is there a way? I know that I've gotten invitations for Spaces before. How the hell do you send out invitations? Does anybody know how to do that?
Let me see.
Do you know how to do that, Rob?
Outlaw Radio.
Space settings,
share.
show captions, report this space. No, I don't want to report this space.
Is this send via direct message?
Speakers who can speak, everyone. No, that's not it.
Send direct message?
Send DM to who? Where? What?
What?
What are you talking about?
Well, scroll down.
Scroll
Hold
down.
on. Yeah, and if you do the share.
Here?
Oh, no.
There is no scrolling down here, my
No,
love.
not there. There. Over there. You can just click the share button.
Which one?
On the post.
The post. Yeah, but the post doesn't go to the Spaces, does it?
Oh, it doesn't.
No, it's just sharing the post, my silly.
I've got this. This is the Spaces.
Yeah. Well, then you need to go in and share that with all the people in the groups that we have under the direct messages, especially the one with 21 people in it and the main group that has, I don't know, a number of people in it.
Oh, I've never done this before. Oops.
Just
Rob, I
share
just
the
sent you
link.
one.
Oh, send the invitation. Yeah, okay. Yeah, send some invitations so we get some people in here. So, and J6 or lawyer, if you want to speak, that's fine. We're not reserved to a certain number of speakers here besides the 10 maximum. So as long as, if you want to have something to say or whatever, feel free to put up your hand or file a request to speak. There's some
File a request.
File a request.
Is there a form for that?
Yeah, with management. Yeah, right. Somebody will take care of that. Somebody will be with you right in a minute. So anyway, yeah, we did this earlier. We reported to you that, so what do we know up to now? Okay. We know that, what's the douchebag's name again?
Routh.
Routh. Yeah.
I can't remember his first name.
And he's a
The R.
Ukrainian freedom fighter, right? Total
Yep.
retard over there, giving a shit about the freedom of the Ukrainian people. And he's over there. He lived in Hawaii for a while, and then he went over to the Ukraine. And recently, we got onto his Facebook page for a little bit, and like literally 5 minutes after we got on there, they scrubbed it.
Yeah.
And and so yeah, that was interesting. But still, his profile was out there on X. What else do we know about him?
Ryan Wesley Routh. Grew
Ralph.
up in North Carolina, lived in Hawaii, has been over in Ukraine fighting and recruiting Afghanis to fight in the Ukraine war.
Right. And by the way, that's my one flesh over there, my
Hello.
hippie chick, Yennefer.
I'm shy.
Yeah, shy. Sure she is. Wait till you turn the lights off. She's not shy at all.
Hey.
So anyway, yeah. So this guy is like a total ideologue. We heard a speech of him earlier today, and he's all about drawing the line in the sand and protecting democracy and freedom and all that. And apparently we do have a report, and I have to say allegedly because we are trying to be a legitimate news agency over here, is that allegedly he had used recently the terminology that Donald Trump was a quote-unquote threat to democracy. Now, I don't know if you've heard that before. I don't know if you've heard the left saying anything like that before. But yeah, that's pretty disturbing to hear. And now we have, I think within 8 weeks is what it is, 8 weeks. We have some guy in the bushes. And if you haven't seen the press conference, you need to go out and watch this press conference. What an absolute bunch of crap and incompetency and stupidity I've never heard. Once again, we have a failure to secure the perimeter, man. Do you believe this? I can't believe it. I can't believe that they failed to secure the perimeter. It's absolutely ridiculous. And so, is this starting to look like, it's intentional? Yeah, I would say so. Especially when the sheriff goes on after and says, we know it's a heightened threat environment, blah, blah, blah. Or no, the Secret Service guy said that. And the stupid sheriff says, yeah, I imagine next time we'll have some more security around the perimeter. It's like, you imagine? What, once again, the second time we have a failure? We have a failure to imagine, guys. Well, once again. I mean, these are not serious professional organizations at this point anymore, right? I'm starting to get concerned that these people they're not serious. Man, they're just unserious. So let me move this over here onto this side so that we can see stuff, and then I'll move this X Spaces thing over here on the fly. So who wants to weigh in on this thing besides me babbling away? I'm not the only one that has intelligent things to say. Anybody else want to speak?
Intelligent?
Well, I like to
Who's
think of
judging
myself as intelligent.
Well, sure you will.
Was I asking you for help? I'm not where I was asking you for help on this Spaces.
Yes.
I got an unwitting co-host, apparently. Yeah, I didn't expect to have that tonight, but she's apparently doesn't have enough gummies in her system yet. She hasn't
A foil.
retired for the evening.
No, but I probably will be.
So, so anyway, I'm infuriated with this thing. And I'm astounded that they've memory hold. I mean, there was one press conference. Is this going to be the single solitary press conference we're going to have about this one? Are we going to get some more information about this one? Apparently, the FBI has already taken custody of this guy. And what's the guy's name from the mercenary organization?
Eric Prince. CEO of Blackwater.
Yeah, Blackwater. That's right. He says that they should have never turned over custody. Florida should have never turned over custody.
Right. Well, and DeSantis has since posted something. I don't know if they've turned him over to FBI yet or not. I think they did. But he has come out and said that they're going to conduct their own investigation.
Yeah, well,
Florida.
It's a little late if they whisk this guy away, especially if he's going to get killed.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to Epstein this guy.
Well, maybe they'll go in and talk to him.
But I mean, they're already memory holding it. They're pretending it doesn't exist. First of all, they did the same crap. We heard, well, allegedly there might have been some, a gun shot at him. Some gunfire attacked him. Maybe, allegedly. And then now, instead of covering it as the most important thing, which is like history, guys, history, the second time in 8 weeks we've had assassination attempt. This is unprecedented in modern history. It's unprecedented, I think, in American history.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. But here we are. We're talking about Springfield, Ohio. The dogs and cats.
Right.
Seriously?
Thanks, Alex.
Seriously?
Wait.
Yeah. Because we're fomenting all this hate. Well, it's no wonder that somebody wants to take out Donald Trump because of all the hatred he foments toward the Haitian community,
Yeah.
slurring them and accusing them of eating dogs and cats. Man, we're in a bad way. And I said earlier today, I said, guys, I think we've leveled up here. This isn't like we're in a new era. This is like new era squared. This is Abby something. Abby like way normal. Okay, this is not right. And when are we going to start? If this is not normal, when are we going to start doing not normal shit? There, I throw the question out to you. Somebody else, for God's sake,
When
say
are we
something.
going to do the not normal shit? Is that what you just asked?
Yeah, yeah. When are we going to start doing not normal things? And I'm not
Not normal
necessarily,
things.
not
Yeah.
intimating
See,
necessarily
here's
any
the
violence, right?
no. I understand what you're saying. Oh yeah, most definitely. Because we were if such a short time ago. Um, if
You
we,
turn me down.
I don't think a lot of us have forgotten or anything, but when all this really started to begin, we were getting violent. We were getting so angry. People were, there was people out there that, on the right that they were going extreme. They did. They wanted to. They were getting angry out in the open. And what did the left do? What did the Democrats do? What did the mainstream media? They started pouncing on it. They're like, oh, look at what they're doing. Shame them. Let's shame the right now. We have to shame the right. That was the ploy the whole time. All right. And then all of a sudden, like right now, I'll bring up the cats, the cat situation, since I'm a pet lover. I'll get that out of the way. And what they did now, okay, they opened up the gates, let all these people in, and they had the plan. But it backfired on them, and their plans always backfire on them. And they didn't expect these people to start cooking the cats, even the strays. We always dealt with our strays somehow or another. Spay and neuter, and all that. We're civil. We were civilized society. We are a civilized society. They are trying to disrupt the that civilization, all right, our civilization, the way we live. They're going to disrupt it. So now what are they doing? It's like, oh, let's keep throwing a bunch of stones in their way and see which one bites. Well, we got up in arms because they're going after our cats. All right. And we had proof. They tried shutting it down. They're more or less at the left or the mainstream media. They more or less were saying, hey, there ain't nothing there. There ain't nothing. But now all of a sudden, guess what? Because of the fact that we're up in arms over this shit, they're going to start saying and shaming us and saying, look at how bad they're getting now. Oh my goodness. It's the holier than thou thing that they're doing. All right. They're throwing it in our faces. And you're right. What do? We need it. We need to just let them know. It's somehow, some way, like we're doing right now. We need to let the mainstream media know. Link them, hyperlink their asses when you're texting, or when you're posting something. Let these people know that you are out there and you're talking to them. You can swear if you want. That's fine, But getting violent or whatever, even if you want to word your right, word type your words correctly, you can do that too. Be sophisticated. It doesn't matter. Show them that they're wrong. Prove to them that what they did, show them the past, and just say, you guys, no matter what you do, you're lying to us. We already know the plan. Ever since the bullet missed, we know what's going to happen next.
Right, right.
That's it. It's critical thinking. We can do this. We know how to do this. We're educated people, just like they are. And they're showing, and they're throwing all these ploys and all these little things out there. Well, now we have Lester Holt and up in Ohio or Pennsylvania somewhere talking about cats and how bad we are reacting to it. They're the ones that instigated it to
Did you,
begin with. They
did you,
instigated the whole freaking thing.
yeah, Jeff,
I'm going to let it go from that.
yeah, I don't know if you happen to see,
I can't
not,
hear you.
what? Well, you turn it down.
Okay.
I need to hit mute. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, so, the interview today, that Alex Witt had with somebody. Okay, I don't even remember these two talking head retards.
I hadn't seen any news today. I should have started with that. I'm sorry. But no, I had
Oh,
not seen any news today on any of this
The,
stuff. This is all new to me that you guys are talking about.
they're
oh,
blaming Trump.
they said, okay, they said that they asked the question: Is the Trump campaign going to get the message that it's about time to turn down the rhetoric now that they've tried to assassinate him a second time? You know, they're literally saying that the rhetoric from the Trump campaign is what caused the assassin to take another shot at him. And I'm like, I don't even understand what planet we're on.
They're using, they set it up. That's the ploy. They set it up and waited for, something to bite. And that once the thing happened, once the incident takes place, whether or not it was against Trump or not, whether the incident took place close to him, the reaction from that, they used that reaction to fight against us.
They didn't even need us, man. All they did is
I
say
know.
that
Exactly.
Trump's rhetoric. Okay, and today again, they're still saying, who was it that was saying that MAGA is an existential threat to this country?
Lester
Right.
Holt.
The MAGA. No.
Here's
It
the
was
thing.
somebody
They
else.
take they take the letters. All right. They're just using the letters and trying to say MAGA is bad. It's like, no, spell it out, people. Say what it says. Make America great again. Or just say making America great always. Instead of telling us, let's just say we're doing it, people. The left, tell the Democrats, we're making America great always. Even if you guys are fighting back at us, we're making it great by fighting you.
All
You
right, let
understand?
me yeah, okay, but
Yeah.
let me say
All right.
something here because
Yeah, my back out.
we're a little bitty news agency, right? Little baby thing, right? And so and I think everybody has a feeling of frustration, which is why people are here in the spaces listening and we're talking about this kind of stuff, right? And there's a number of people out there. We're not the only ones. There's a whole series of repeaters that are going on out there. And one of the things that I want to pitch out, and I mentioned it earlier, and I want to talk about is that anything that we ever do, okay, we didn't even do anything in this case, and we're saying simply the rhetoric, okay, caused this thing to happen, and it blew back on Trump, right? And I suggested earlier that maybe what we should do is, like, it's time to do something different, like maybe it's time to surround Mar-a-Lago. Maybe it's time to say, yeah, I don't think so, man. There's nobody getting near our president. There's only 50 days left, and we're not taking any chances. And thereby taking absolutely no offensive position toward anyone, but just saying, yeah, we're here and nobody's getting near Trump. But at the same time, they've just used the mere rhetoric. So the mere presence will be taken as an antagonization. But at this point, we're damned if we do and damned if we don't. What are we to do? Because I think people are losing their patience. We need to do something.
Well, and then you got the Democrats coming in with, Trump's Hitler and, all these other disparaging remarks about him. Yet they don't consider that rhetoric for whatever reason. This is all planned. And that's what people need to see is it's all planned.
So the question again, though, is the feeling that we just have to go along for this ride is infuriating. And at this point, if the Secret Service today said, "Oh yeah, of course we've taken new measures," well then how in the hell did exactly what happened today happen? Which is exactly the same damn thing that happened before. Just exactly, except that this guy wasn't in an elevated position; he was in the bushes. I'm not quite sure what the difference is here.
The one of the things I wanted to bring up too, God, I just about the Hell's Angels. You're saying, what can we do? What can we do? Remember back in the past, what was it? Woodstock? Yeah, it was Woodstock. The Hell's Angels were there to make sure nobody rushed the stage. Okay? So, and we're saying now, it's like, well, we can't trust the Secret Service anymore. We can't trust the ones in power to protect their opponent because they're out to kill them, literally, And so you're saying, who can we call? Who can we, call upon, or how can we get together? And I'm 61 years old. I've known that the Hells Angels have been around since I was born. They haven't done too much. They're just a club. I say, let's call upon the Hells Angels and say, why don't you guys just like occupy Mar-a-Lago in that area for a while? Protect the president, or at least protect our candidate, and not our president, yeah. But yeah, get some of these groups together, man. I mean, there's men out there that can do this. I know there is. I used to ride with them. So I'll let it go from there.
Well, I'm kind of expecting at some point something sort of organic is going to start to happen, and I don't really know what that's going to look like. But again, I think that what we were talking about earlier, and Colette sent me a bite about a voice message about that she sent out is where are the vets? Where are bikers for Trump? Where's the muscle? I mean, it's a really good question. I mean, does anybody else have an answer to that? And does anybody else want to maybe stand up and speak? What about you, Jay Sixer? You want to talk?
Oh, hey, Truth. Thanks. How you doing?
Well, I'm well. How are you?
I'm well. I check in on your X page from time to time. I saw you were doing the space, so I thought I'd join in. Yeah, it's hard to say what's going on in the Trump campaign. I don't think he's campaigning as well as I wish he would. I mean, he's gotten some things right, but he's committed a lot of unforced errors. I don't think he had a great debate performance either. I think he probably winds up winning the debate because I think as the Kamala and ABC statements are fact checked and people see that they blatantly made claims that are easily disprovable, I think it'll do more damage to her campaign than good. I know there's this ABC poll out today saying that she's up by 6 or something. I don't believe it. As far as these assassination attempts, I mean, I don't know where, at one point we heard that the Hell's Angels were coming to one of these towns or something. That never transpired. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if people are just putting all their effort toward the election or what the deal is. And I guess we were talking when the Hells Angels were going to go to where that town in Colorado where Venezuelan gangs were taking over apartment complexes or something. And, that kind of all foam, no beer. So, yeah, I don't know the answer. Um, yeah, I wish I did. I think this is a critical election. I wish people were taking it a lot more seriously.
Well, I think literally we're in a constitutional crisis right now. And I think that people are afraid. I mean, we were at January 6th.
Yeah,
And
me too.
yeah, and I mean,
When I say J6 or lawyer galoot, I'm a real J6er. I'm a real Christian. I'm a real Presbyterian. I'm a real lawyer, and I really am kind of a galoot. I mean, in a lot of ways, I kind of stumbled into J6. I think more than many of them, but I mean, I don't know.
and
I pled guilty to the picketing, parading, and demonstrating in the Capitol without a permit. Um, on that petty offense, first offense, no priors, 10-year attorney in good standing, you know, had probably some decent contributions to my town and my community and all that. Nevertheless, I got 21 days in federal prison, 90 days home confinement, 3,000 in fines, and 3 years of probation. And the probation's bad because it makes it more difficult. They suspended my law license, and being on probation makes it much more difficult to get them to lift that suspension. So they hit me pretty hard for
uh,
what I did. No one alleged. I was charged with the standard four. The entering and remaining, the disorderly at the Capitol, disorderly in a restricted area, and the picketing and parading. They dropped the top three. They let me plead to the least offense. The picketing and parading is a Class B misdemeanor. The Class B's used to be known as petty offenses. maximum 6 month sentence. Um, and if you total up, 6 months is 180 days. If you total up everything I got, including home confinement, I wound up getting about 111 out of 180 days on the first offense. Did I picket, parade, and demonstrate in the Capitol? Yeah, guilty as charged. I pled guilty to it. I always intended to plead guilty. Did they hit me a little harder than I think they should have under the circumstances? Yeah, I do. I mean, I think I think the government is trying to sort of shock and awe the country about Jan 6
Mm,
and basically chill our First Amendment rights. And this goes back to your first question. I mean, maybe the reason people aren't getting involved with Trump and protecting Trump and putting themselves out there is they see what happened to the J6ers and they don't want to
right.
have their lives upended by the way DOJ and FBI are prosecuting this thing. And while I'm on the topic, if you don't mind me talking just a minute longer,
No, go ahead.
I was shock and awe arrested. They were following me to the office, and I didn't know it. I happened to turn into a Target to go get a cup of coffee because there's a coffee place in the Target that made pretty decent coffee. And if I hadn't done that, they would have gotten me in the parking lot of the law firm that I worked in, which is a really high profile law firm. And I think all of that was intentional. I mean, they could have, I never had the initial contact, where they come knock on your door and say, hey, we want to talk to you. If they had, I would have said, there's nothing to talk about. Give me the indictment and I'll come turn myself in and we'll start talking about a plea deal. I'd already decided that I was guilty and I was going to plead guilty. I've never thought I was anything but guilty of exactly what I did. And so I was like, yeah, I'll plead to it. It's not an issue. But I never got that chance. Then they shock and awe arrested me. They surrounded me with, I don't know. I didn't take time to count, but dozen guys maybe. 3 or 4 FBI vehicles, 3 or 4 local law enforcement vehicles. The local fire chief in his little red blazer was there. I don't know what they thought I was
Oh,
going to do,
Jesus.
but but yeah, they shock and awe arrested me and then plastered my name in the paper like 6 times.
I got a question for you, and I
Sure.
apologize. I'm so sorry you had to go through all of that. I
Oh,
couldn't
yes.
imagine.
Yeah,
I couldn't.
life's going to deal you good cards and bad cards, and you got to play
No,
by
I
both deals.
understand
So
that.
I'm all right.
I understand that completely. And that's cool that you coming at it like that. I got a question for you. Is how were you scared? Did you at any time get scared when you seen that the authority was coming down on you? And you were no, a law abiding citizen up until that point, never intending to actually have to go through something like this. Okay. How did you feel? Did you get scared? Because I'm starting to feel as though the American people in a consensus, if there was like a consensus of it, we're scared. I think we're the shock and awe. You brought it up. The shock and awe is what we're looking at right now. We're watching 2 towers fall, and giving a metaphor. We were silent for 4 or 5 days, after something like that. So I'm just curious how you felt after that experience, or while that experience was taking place.
I went into the Northwest Terrace door. The door was wide open. There was about 6 Capitol policemen on the Senate stoop watching us file up the ramp and walk in. I walked in, I guess, around 2:23 um, uh, p.m. I was back out by like 2:52, so I was in there for 19 minutes. By the time I got down, I mean, I took a right, went through the crypt area and then wound up in the rotunda. I didn't see any Capitol policemen as I was going through the Capitol. And by the time I got to the rotunda and realized that people were literally just milling around, um, I started saying, something's wrong. I mean, something's wrong. It shouldn't be this easy. This is weird. I was there to protest. My feeling in real time was that the Capitol Police were telling us, you guys aren't allowed to protest. And as a lawyer, I was like, wait a minute. And I think the bulk of the crowd arrived at around 2 o'clock or so, 2:10, and I think the Capitol Police started firing ordnance at them. I only remember like two, but somebody from Sedition Hunters is telling me that no, there were more like 12 fired in my general area uh, while I was on the west lawn. I moved to the left, went up the steps. There's nobody on the steps. Got to the top of the terrace. Nobody at the top of the terrace. I was never confronted by any uh, Capitol Police or anything. And the thing I've learned, and I've learned a lot just like listening to these sedition hunters, and they hate me. They'll they really they bash me as much as they can anytime I get on their spaces. But one of the things I've learned from them is that all the violence in that center tunnel really didn't begin before about 2:40, 2:45. 15 or 20 minutes after I was in the Capitol, and I've asked anybody that cares to answer, like, how is it that the Northwest Terrace door was wide open and people were strolling in, while the center west door, they were fighting like crazy to keep people out. And I don't think there's any particular path behind that so-called tunnel door that would take you any place that the Northwest Terrace door wouldn't take you. So I don't know, why were they fighting so hard in one when they weren't in the other? Why is it they were fighting so crazy when hundreds of people were already inside? Um, now, all that said, and I'm always very careful to say this. I pled guilty to exactly what I did. Okay. And I don't think that I'm not guilty. I don't think I'm a hero. I knew, even without them telling me, I mean, I think some of the people I went through the door with could say, I thought it was okay to go in. As a lawyer, I knew very well it was not okay to go in. I knew very well I was committing a trespass. I knew very well that it was probably going to be a minor trespass because it's a law crafted against First Amendment activity, so it's going to be narrowly construed so as to not create a chilling effect on the First Amendment. That's how our laws have been drafted for decades when it comes to the conflict between First Amendment rights and the government's right to restrict First Amendment activity as to time, place, and manner, reasonably as to time, place, and manner. So I knew that dynamic was there. So I knew, like, it's a trespass, but this is a protest. It's not going to be a terrible trespass. So by the time I got down to the rotunda, I was, yeah, okay, something ain't right about this deal. And I started telling my friend, like, let's get out of here. And I was there with a neighbor of mine, actually, who rode up together. We went down to the visitor center, came back to the rotunda, went toward the house in, came back to the rotunda, then we finally got out of there. When I left the building, I had to crawl out of a window. So many people were streaming through that Northwest Terrace door that I came in and was trying to get out, that I actually had to crawl out of the window to get out of there. And the FBI, by the way, never faulted me for that, because on the video it was so obvious that was the only way out for me. It was obviously I was trying to get out. My friend and I were trying to get out, and we couldn't get out the door because so many people were coming through the door. So we got out of there and then we left. So I got out at 2:52. Fighting in the tunnel had been going on from anywhere from 7 to 12 minutes, and I never saw it. And it's only been recently that I figured out the reason I didn't see it is because it started after I went inside the building. And I do not understand why they were letting people in some areas and then fighting like crazy in other areas. So, I've asked that question. Like I say, believe it or not, Sedition Hunters has been the most helpful in me, like, beginning to grasp what happened that day and putting together some sort of accurate timeline. But I'm a long way from understanding what happened on J6. Um, you know, I was a protester. In the midst of protest, I got a little angry. They threw I remember a flashbang and like some sort of pepper grenade. And getting a whiff of that, and I was thinking, like, you guys are telling us we can't protest, like, screw you. And so, yeah, I got angry, and in my anger, I made a mistake. I committed a trespass. I knew daggum well it was trespass. I did it anyway, so I'm guilty of that. I think the punishment is a little beyond what it should be. I think most of the J6ers have gotten punishments that are beyond what they should
Well,
be.
and I mean, I think that's the huge issue here, right? It isn't the fact that you, because I mean, that's what you do when you protest. And I mean, we watched during 2020 the entire year. I sat here, okay, watching every stinking thing melt, okay? And, we watched the whole country burn. And I'm like, when we got there, I'm like, yeah, it's our turn. That's the way I felt about it. I was like, it's our turn to have our voices heard. And so we're going to stomp up there. And, I had this mental image in my mind, like I've said it before, is that, we have freedom. We all had that Braveheart thing going on, right? We got into the whole mentality of it.
It got emotional, didn't it?
It did. It really did.
Yeah.
And
Imagine that. Human beings are emotional creatures.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, fortunately, Mama and I, we were standing there in front of the ellipse. We never made it in. And so as a result, we never brought our flagpoles or none of that stuff, man. Nothing. I didn't have nothing. But the reason that we, brought stuff with us wasn't because
Bear spray.
bear spray and crap like that I left
Well, it's
back
because
at
we
the
were
hotel.
afraid of Antifa.
We were afraid of Antifa, okay? They're
protesters.
running around. They were.
Absolutely. Many people in the crowd
Yep.
mentioned that they were concerned about Antifa. I did not hear one person say, hey, we should, I'm here to attack Capitol Police.
Hell no.
I want to go up there and beat somebody's butt. I didn't hear anything like that.
No.
Anybody that had any kind of weapon on them, they were saying it was for defensive purposes.
Yep.
Me, I didn't, I mean, I must be an idiot. I didn't even bring a weapon. I figured if Antifa attacked, I'm an old guy, but I'm still young enough to outrun them or something. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't too worried about that. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were standing there forever, and we finally made our way after he was done speaking, and it was a mile and a half. So by the time we got down there, okay, the breach had occurred, and there was a lot of tussling going on up the top of the stairs. We were on the side with the scaffolding, and so
That's where I was. That's the west side.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
there was some really, really obvious things that I saw, like the one guy that had the bike rack up against the wall, and he's like almost like a carnival barker, saying, "Come on, you got one chance to sit in Nancy Pelosi's seat. Come on, step right up." And I'm going, that doesn't feel right. And the guy right up at the top, right, who was like waving people on, to advance upon the building. And then, of course, much of, everything else, well, when we left, man, I mean, we actually met the guy. I was waiting for the Uber. Met the guy that I can't remember the name of the lady who got
Rosalind Boylan.
yeah,
Rosalind
Boylan.
Boylan. Yes.
Yeah, so we met her friend, and I also met a MAGA guy next to me that wasn't MAGA. Okay, I guarantee you he was Antifa, right? I studied enough of Antifa to know.
I'm so sick of these liberals saying that there were no Antifa there. I was on a space the other night. A bunch of Antifa people were saying, "No, we put out a message and said don't go," and all this. There was Antifa all over the place.
Man, I lent the guy my
John
damn
Sullivan.
phone. Okay, I know I did, and he just, man, he wasn't right. Man, I just know he wasn't right. And like I said, I spent all of 2020 watching them. I know how they act. I know what they're like. And so the whole thing was a setup, and we did exactly what they wanted, and we did just barely enough, But they used it, and then they came down on everybody, and they did. Shock and awe is exactly the right word. And
Well, that's the way they described it. Initially, one of the DOJ guys leading the investigation
Yep.
did a media interview where he said it's going to be a shock and awe campaign, and these people are going to find out what the federal government's capable of. And he's like gleefully saying all this. And I mean, Jeff, to your question, did I get scared? Yeah, probably around January the 10th or 15th, and I began to realize, like, man, they are not going to let this go. They put up billboards in my town, that said, call the FBI tip line if you know anything about Jan 6. And even at that, I would not have been caught. I mean, my neighbor got ratted out by his ex-wife, his cousin,
Oh,
some guy he went to high school with, several coworkers, and I think maybe even one or two of his kids. And then
oh,
when they got him, they got me. I mean, when they got him, they actually went to his door, and his 16-year-old daughter answered the phone, and she got intimidated and started answering their questions. And they asked the routine question, did he go up there with anybody else? Well, yeah, our
yeah.
neighbor, and pointed at my house. And I was like, otherwise, nobody ratted me out. Nobody in my inner circle dialed up the tip line or anything. But yeah, I started around January 15. I started getting scared, and then I think the FBI first went to my neighbor's house maybe sometime in February or March. And
Mm.
then I was like, well, it's inevitable. And I called a lawyer and retained him through arraignment, and just said, if they get me, come get me out. And he was like, he was a former federal prosecutor. He was like, no, they'll do the initial interview. When they do the initial interview, just give them my card, and we'll arrange to turn you in, and then we'll work on. I actually talked to this lawyer in early 2021 and said, hey, look, I just want to turn myself in. This is stupid. I don't want to wait around for these guys. And he advised me that for a number of procedural reasons, you wait for the initial interview. I
Hmm.
talked to a second federal lawyer, also former federal prosecutor, and he said the same thing. He said, nope, 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 that's not how it's done. Wait for the initial interview, give them my card, we'll contact them, blah, blah, blah. Well, somehow or another, those guys got wind of that and figured out what I was planning to do. And so they skipped the initial interview and just did the shock and awe arrest in the Target parking lot, which would have been my law firm parking lot, but I just happened to turn off for coffee.
Yeah, well, the only difference is, had I been a few years younger, and I not had rotten hips, and my wife had not had a Parkinsonian thing going on, we would have been there, man. We would have climbed up, and we would have been wandering around inside with you, right? I mean, that's the only thing that prevented me. I was just too damn old to get up the damn stairs, and I'm like, I can't leave Mama here. And
Right.
like I said, I smelled it, but I still probably would have walked right into it. Because it's like, there
Well,
you are.
You
It's
get
like
caught
this
up in it.
historic thing that's going on here.
yeah, and I, I've said this. I said this to the feds. I said, look, I came to protest. In my mind, this protest was morphing into an Occupy style protest because of the unnecessary pushback we got from Capitol Police. Now, out of fairness to the Capitol Police, the bulk of the crowd, Trump stopped speaking at about 10 minutes past 1. And you're right, it's about a mile and a half, mile and three quarters from where Trump was speaking down to the Capitol. And it takes, you got crowds and you got to kind of shuffle along because there's so many people there.
Right.
So it took us a while to get down there. But the bulk of the crowd got there. We did not know that fighting had started at 10:30 in the morning. We did not know
10:30.
that protesters had attacked some of the sidewalk barriers at starting at like 10:30 in the morning. We didn't know that there had been pushy shovey at some of the fence barriers. We didn't know there was pushy shovey out on the lawn or up near the terrace. By the time we got there, Capitol Police had kind of retreated to the terrace, and everybody's walking up. There had been a fence barrier arching along the west lawn, and somebody took that thing up. And I've seen pictures subsequent to that somebody not only took it up, they rolled it up. I mean, they kind of neatly rolled it up. I've said all along, like, how many rioters actually take time to roll up the fence? That's kind of suspicious. We had seen that fence earlier, and then we came back. I looked at my neighbor and said, well, they retracted that barrier for some reason. That's weird. That should have told me, like, go get in the car and go home. But no, I was a dummy. So we walk up, we're peaceful, we're singing the Star Spangled Banner, we're protesting, we're going to make some noise, make our point, and then Capitol Police attack us. Out of fairness to them, maybe they thought we were part and parcel of the first gangs that had attacked them, and then the crowd feels like, hey, we're just sitting here singing songs, and now they're launching ordnance at us, and so the crowd got mad. I mean, the mood of the crowd like changed,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
in real time, like in a period of minutes,
Yep.
right in front of my eyes. And so at that point, I'm ticked off, and I'm like, you guys are not going to tell me that I cannot come to the capital of the United States of America and exercise my First Amendment rights. And so we went up to the terrace, and I got up to the terrace and nobody up there. And then there's also an element, you're absolutely right. There's also an element of curiosity. You're there, something's going on. I mean, maybe Trump's inside. Who would put it past him? Who knows what's going on? And so there's a little anger, determination to protest, determination to make our point, and simultaneously there's some curiosity. Well, other people are going to go in there and look around. I want to go in there and look around. I got in there, I got to the rotunda, I was like, yeah, this ain't good. I had a bad feeling. Bad feeling got worse and worse, and I think, I don't know, maybe February, I think maybe I retained the lawyer in January, and then by February I knew, like, okay, yeah, I'm in trouble. This is just a matter of time. Still took them a year and a half to get me. They arrested me May 20 of 2022.
Mm.
And
Yeah, well, I had heard that they were, gonna be working on another wave and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if it's petered out yet or they're still working on it. But fortunately, like I said, had I had better health, I probably would have gone right up into it, just get sucked up into it because that's where I was at, but now the chilling effect, and I guess trying to bring it back a little bit on topic is now we got a situation where there's a chilling effect. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows what to do. I don't think anybody knows if they should do it. I don't know I mean, are we playing right into their hands if we would do anything physically at all? But then the alternative is to just sit here and let it all play out, which I think is driving us all absolutely insane. And I think that's the real problem here, right?
we can register voters. We can vote. We can talk it up. We can do spaces like this and talk to people and say, seriously, don't neglect it. Vote. Call all your friends. Get them to vote. We can do what we can do, but you're absolutely right. In terms of good old fashioned American First Amendment protest and expression, the right has been totally chilled out.
J Sixer,
Yes, sir.
correct me if I'm wrong here, but you talked about a group of people that had been messing with the DC police at 10:30 a.m. Wasn't that the time that they pushed an old man down the stairs?
No, I think the initial clashes were further out from the terrace where they had the bicycle barriers across the sidewalks. That's the one where Ray Epps is like famously behind that guy and
Right.
whispering, and they're sort of going back and forth, and then the crowd starts shoving the bicycle barriers, and then the crowd, including Ray Epps, run through the barriers and run past Capitol Police toward the Capitol. That started at about 10:30. And I don't, I don't have a very good grasp of the timeline that led to the point that the Capitol Police are on the terrace and all the protesters
Well, what?
are on the
Let
lawn.
me ask a question. How in the hell did they expect uh, bicycle racks across the concrete part, and then in the grass, orange construction fencing? That was going to hold out 1 million people? Like, what, we're just going to. I mean, what the hell, man? I mean, that whole thing stinks, right? And then, like,
And
the
I
next
tell you,
minute they're putting up all the
I
steel
think they,
fencing.
I think they did think it might keep people out because somebody there's these heavily like helmeted up goggles, masks, black flak jacket, gloves. There's these heavily like armed up people. Sedition Hunter says there was about 13 of them. Sedition Hunter says they've identified them and they haven't been arrested. I don't know. I don't know if all of them been identified or not, but they literally removed the fence and
Yeah.
they removed the posts and they took down the signs because I think they decided that, yeah, these MAGA people might not push past the fence. So by the time I got back, that fence was not trampled down, it was gone.
Right. Wow. That's crazy. So I just wanted to interject. We got about almost 1,000 people, 1,000 views over on X. So we're simulcasting this Spaces over there, and so that's pretty cool. And we have Jerry on YouTube, who's kind of getting a little too excited and like being a little manic and typing in all caps. So we put Jerry in timeout. So Jerry, just you'll be out of timeout in a little while, but just chill out a little bit. Quit bombing my chat. So
Lay off the coffee.
yeah, lay off the coffee. Looking a little wired there, dude. So yeah. So I guess back to this chilling effect, right? Again, do we let Trump take care of his own security around him, or do you expect that something more grassroots is going to begin to happen, or should something more grassroots begin to happen? I don't know.
Who, me?
Anybody?
I've talked enough. I'll let somebody else answer.
Well, if it does, I wouldn't suggest going to D.C. to do it.
No, I think that would be an awfully bad idea. I think repeating January 6th would be really bad. I mean, that would be beyond stupid, I think. But, is there any place for any physical thing for a bunch of supporters to do, or should we all just stay chilled? I mean, it's a hard question. I mean, it's just like
I think I'll speak up. I'll answer that. I'll throw out. Excuse me. I'll throw out my opinion on that. Um, I think that we do need to stand the line and do exactly what Trump is doing. Let them dig their own hole. They're the ones, it's kind of like what I was saying earlier, is no matter what they do now, we know it's just in the attempt to take over the country. It's not necessarily to keep the presidency. And we see this now. And no matter what, whatever they do, they try to get us to react.
Yeah.
So what Trump is doing is he's mainly just standing the line. He knows what they're doing. He might play into them. He might he might just be playing the game with them. They're throwing things at him, curveballs that he doesn't know, but he's taking it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he took a bullet. So he's standing firm, and I think that's really what we should be doing too, is standing firm. And whenever we see something, we speak up about it. No matter what we see it, we need to speak up about it.
Yeah, I think,
But not do it violently,
yeah.
And protesting, yeah. Apparently, the left loves to protest. We don't. We're the workers. We're the ones that say, "Hey, guys, you're really interrupting our freaking, our weekday here. I'm trying to make a 40-hour week and we can't get to work."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Shit like that. So yeah, it's more or less they're antagonist. They're taunting us with their different narrative, their different schemes. But what they don't understand is that we always look ahead. We can critical think, like me, you, Waz, everybody on here. We critical think things, and we talk. Now that we have this means of talking and communicating amongst ourselves, which is great. This is awesome that we're able to correspond this way. That way we can come up with a plan, or at least they can hear us say, "Guess what? We know what you're doing. We're actually going to know what you're going to do next." We can play out the scenarios, discuss the scenarios, and say, "Okay, we got to be on guard. Stand guard. Let's just stand the line." You see,
Yeah.
we
Well,
have to
yeah,
stand that line that they drew.
yeah.
They've already crossed that line. It's like, whoa, whoa. Right now, Biden, the only thing that Antony Blinken has been wanting to do is get Biden's signature and okay to send the freaking ballistic missiles
Yeah.
to Ukraine.
Yeah. Well,
It's like,
I
Go
think
ahead.
that
Go
I
ahead.
think that it reminds me of the line from the movie Braveheart, right? Where Mel Gibson is standing there and he's got his arm up and he's got his fist up and he's like, hold, hold. And I think that we're in that holding pattern, and Unquirer is really good about talking about making the other side fall on their sword, that they need to destroy themselves. And one of the things that Donald Trump is very, very good at is he's a superb troll, right? He has that ability to draw out the madness in the other side, makes them just go absolutely nuts, right? So, dude, Jerry, I'm going to give you one more fucking warning. I'm going to be nice, and then I'm not going to be nice. I appreciate Trump is coming, but quit bombing the chat, man. Dude, relax. So, but anyway, I think that it's important, and what Inquirer Richard does, and he points to Jesus in the New Testament, very much the same, drove the Pharisees absolutely mad. Now, in the end, Jesus wound up dead and crucified, and I prefer that not happen to Donald Trump, and I don't think that's going to. And I think that no conversation about this situation is complete without the spiritual component and the Christian worldview upon this thing. And especially if you look at the first assassination attempt, where I think that it's pretty much a whole lot of people that I know believe that there was divine intervention there that happened and caused Trump to survive. And so if he survived the first one and he's now survived the second one and they're 0-2, it certainly does seem to be that the hand of God is upon him. So perhaps there is wisdom in what you're saying, Jeff, is that we just need to all chill. And then if we respond and go J6th, right, in any way that even remotely looks like, because again, I started the spaces out tonight talking about the fact that, nothing happened except for Donald Trump got shot at, and they came on in the news, and Alex DeWitt said, is the Trump campaign going to get the message they need to turn down the rhetoric? I mean, gosh, they shot at him again. When is he going to get the message? So they blamed him already without anyone getting involved at all. So, and I know that the kind of people that are the ones that listen to this kind of message and listen to this kind of podcast, I think many of us are sort of looking, well, they were the same kind of people that would have gone to January 6th and did go to January 6th in some cases. So we're the ones that do. We're the ones that want to be and affect change. And we have to be shrewd as a snake and innocent as a dove in this one. And that might mean just sitting still and continuing to participate in spaces and things like this. Eh? What do you guys think? Anybody else? You're going to make me do all the work, huh? I can do it. But
Well, I don't even think we need to go out and protest or riot or anything like that. I think all we need to do is don't show up for work, bring the economy to a standstill.
Yep. Well, I do think that, there are going to be certain things that present themselves, and we don't know what those are. And sometimes I think if you don't know what to do, the best thing to do is just to wait, not do anything, right? Which is kind of one of the reasons that I'm not on my
Yeah,
way to
we
Florida
have
right
to.
now. Yeah, we just have to kind of
Yeah.
wait and see.
Yeah. Slow down and just watch what they do.
Right.
And you were absolutely right when you brought that up about they actually instigated it. It's like they could have very well had that dude bring the gun in or however it worked out. I don't know. But then it was all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, look what happened. The mainstream media's jumped on it. Oh my goodness, look what happened. And then of course, what is everybody else going to do? We're going to react. So what did they do? What did they say? Oh, look, the Trump campaign's reacting to this. It's like, well, maybe all of us need to tone down. It's like, heck, you didn't even give us a chance to bring the rhetoric up yet. You see? I mean, we the people, us normal folk that are down here, in the trenches, we hadn't even caught our breaths yet. and actually reacted to it. But yet the mainstream media was already on board, right there saying, "Hey, we're going to need to maybe these people need to tone down the rhetoric on what they're doing, and on whatever it is that we need to tone the rhetoric down." They're they're taunting us. So yes, we need to just stay back, hold the line, you know, they
Well,
caught us at J6, and
um,
we're not going to do that again. We have to stand there. We can turn around and just have them, we can look away, kind of like in a Metallica concert, and the diehard Metallica fans, what did they do? They turned their back and folded their arms and waited for Metallica to come on while the opening act was playing. That's what we're doing. We're holding the line. We can turn around and completely ignore what they're doing and concentrate on voting
yeah,
and getting the
well,
word out to get voting.
I think that at this point, what we have to do is count on the fact that Donald Trump is very good at what he does, and that is number one, troll. And the reason he's such a good troll is because he absolutely drives the left frickin' totally insane, which makes them completely unhinged. And that is always to our advantage because they are looking unhinged. And every day this goes on, the more and more they look unhinged. The more and more anybody that's in the middle, that's undecided, is going to be throwing into Donald Trump's corner. And I think that it's true that that's where we need to focus as much of our attention as possible, is to make sure that Donald Trump gets elected. And then if that goes south, and if we've got crap and shenanigans going on there, well, that's a whole nother story. And if there's another assassination attempt or whatever, that's a whole nother story, right? But yeah, I think that that you're right. I think we need to calm down. And
Let me throw one more thing in there real quick, Tim. Um, I took it and I interpreted when the bullet missed and uh, Trump was being escorted off, and how he came up and he started throwing his fist up and saying "fight," mouthing the words "I'll fight, fight, fight," so everybody could see what he was saying. Um, I wonder. I mean, the man he's 80 years old, or a little over 80 years old, and he could very well have thought that start his heart could have started palpitating, or he could have started feeling something inside after once all this started, and he thought he was actually going to die within the next, probably within the next few minutes or whatever, okay, or at any time. So those were his last words to us, was to fight, fight, fight. But since he didn't die and it was divine intervention that occurred, I think he realized that once because he stood back for a little while after it happened, and then he just calmed down and he went right back into what he was doing. It was, I think, something happened to him to where it it was a life-threatening thing for him, and it woke him up, but it also held his resolve. It almost reaffirmed what he was doing as was righteous, and to hold the line, to say, okay, I'm still here, and I'm still going to keep moving forward on this no matter what. And if you ever notice, when Trump is walking and say he's walking through a hallway, his crew, or it was the Secret Service at the time, I guess, um, they would not cross his path. When he stopped, that line stopped right there. Okay. And the people that were basically on both sides of him, the men and women that were both on both sides of him, they would look around and say, okay, who is it that he was talking to? They're always looking around, and he's walking along, and if he wants to stop and say something to somebody, a citizen, and shake their hand or something, when he stops, the whole line stops. And that's what we are doing right now. That's what we need to look at. And that's how I took this when this happened, is when Trump says to do something, that's when we do it. If he hasn't said anything, he's basically been saying, let's just hold this, let's just keep moving forward. We have a
Yeah,
momentum
yeah,
and we're going to keep doing this.
yeah,
Let them stumble. They're going to throw the stones in front of us. We can still walk around the stones.
yeah. Joe on X says that he says, Jeff, they're just going to cheat again like last time.
Always. They always will. And we know that they're going to do that. There's no, yeah, I mean, we know what they're going to do next. We don't know what they're going to do next, but we know that they are going to do something. That's why we stand vigilant.
Yeah, yeah.
We have to stand firm at that, and we have to call them out. We already know what's going to happen now that Biden said, "Okay, send them the nukes. Put the nukes." Basically, what's happening, folks, is it's Kennedy and the Cuban Missile Crisis all over again, but in reverse. Okay? We have Putin standing there saying, "Don't you dare put nukes on my doorstep.
Yeah, right.
I don't want them there." And Kennedy was saying the same thing back in 1960.
Yeah, right.
Don't you dare bring those nukes and set them on our doorstep in Cuba.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't do it. We drew the line. He put ships out in the freaking Atlantic. He's like, "Don't you dare cross our fucking line." And that was the Cuban Missile Crisis. Basically, this is what's happening with Putin. NATO is basically we're the main source. We're the meat of NATO. Okay, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. We're the meat. They can't do a damn thing. All they can do is keep barking and yiping all they want, like hyenas do. All right, but the main meat of NATO is us. And they want our military. That's the main fucking thing that's going on. They want our military. We already know this. So we need to stand the line. Let them know that we know this and that there's no way that you're going to fuck with this voting come November. Trump is going to be, if Trump is taken out beforehand or whatever, this is what we're trying to stop happening. We already know that they keep attempting to do it.
So let
And
me
they're going
let
to
me let
keep
me let
doing
me
it.
throw a
Go
question
ahead.
out. Does
Yeah.
anybody foresee the possibility that there are any loyalists, any patriots that are in this government that should this thing go hinky regarding the election, which I think that I don't see why these dumb bastards weren't going to do the exact same thing with the voting machines and the algorithm overnight. All of a sudden, counting's going to stop, and bam, the next morning, we're going to have a Venezuelan spike. If you've ever seen those graphs laid over the top of each other from the last election plus the Venezuelan election. But yeah, do you think there's any loyalists that are inside the government that it would actually be possible that there would be a coup in this country, an actual coup by patriots? Is it possible?
Not a one. Not a one.
Why is that? You think because they chased them all out and they purged them all already?
Well, yeah, you got a handful of people in the House and one or two in the Senate. So you got maybe 10 people total that are loyal to this country. They don't have the numbers.
Well, I'm looking at it like this. It's not necessarily needing the numbers. It's needing to get into the colonels and the generals' minds that right now are active duty. There's a lot of retired generals and colonels that can be swayed one way or another. And when that happens, then they basically, they got a lot of sway. And that's where it goes. The bureaucrats need to convince the service members, those that are running like in the Pentagon, they need to convince them that we need to do this. No matter what, the military is still our military. It's we, the people's military. It's built on us, from us. So those members that are in there, yeah, they have to abide and do what they need to do. It's the generals and the colonels that are the ones that are the ball players. So if say for instance, a bureaucrat was to go ahead and convince one of the fleet admirals all right, that has one of the fleets out there and says, okay, guess what? He gone rogue. That would be going rogue. That right there is called a military coup. Right now, we are in a soft coup. The bureaucrats are the ones that are playing the hardball. This is
Jeff,
called a soft coup.
Jeff, that
Yes, go ahead.
military's gone. That military's gone. It's been gone for, I don't know, 8
I
years
don't
now.
think it has. I really don't. I don't think it's full. I don't think it's fully gone. If it has, we would already be in martial law right now. So it's not. You know, they might try to use the. Well, what did they do? They brought in the National Guard in New York.
You
Well, in a
had a,
way, it's kind of good, but then
you
again,
had,
in a way, it's not. You
well,
know,
you,
this is where I kind of like I agree with you. You know, getting up in arms is like the National Guard. Shit, that's our weekend warriors. You know, that's the guys that we go to school with back in the day or whatever. You know, I'm older now, but I'm talking like a younger, hopefully talking like a younger generation right now. You know, and saying what's up with you guys? You know, are you guys going to listen to this stuff? So yeah, we need to make sure that the bureaucrats, like the ones that you're saying are compromised, mostly are. You know, 95%, 98% of the government is compromised right now. And but they don't they don't have the commander in chief. They do, but then again they don't. See, they're still trying to draw the bureaucrats still have to abide by a certain rule. No matter what, they have to. If they don't, then they're caught. Then they're illegal. Then that's when Supreme Court goes, ha, 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 ha. And we go up in arms. We kind of just say, but they're doing everything subtly, clandestinely, and nothing's being exposed. But yet we know they're being exposed because the bullet missed.
they had a sitting
Be-
general that admitted to treason in Trump's administration. So come
Yep,
on, man.
that's right. And is he still in active duty?
Yes.
Okay,
Matter of fact, I think they
then
elevated him.
okay, so then yeah, I guess we are. It's a coup. We might as well just call it a coup because that's what's happening. And now I see it like this. Now that we are in agreement that it is a coup that is taking place, okay? I I'm going to go some critical thinking here. All right, so bear with me. I'm going to delve into the future a little bit and actually kind of ponder what might be going on in Vladimir Putin's mind right now. Okay, is he's got vested interests in the United States, just like we have vested interests in Russia. Plain and simple. Okay, in a nutshell, that's the way that all boils down to. We both have vested interests. We're both the old enemy. Okay, they're the friendly enemies.
Well,
He's up against something that's completely different right now.
I
All
I
right, go ahead.
well, I just think that this whole bullshit with NATO and this idea that the neocons keep beating this drum that that Vladimir Putin is going to march across Europe, right? First Poland is going to fall and then all the others are going to fall like dominoes is the biggest bunch of shit that I've ever heard, right? I have no indication that I've seen at all, from Vladimir Putin that he had any desire. Like you said, he just didn't want nukes shoved up his ass right up against the border, right? He's always wanted, and I heard him do a whole long thing about the history of Russia and all that kind of stuff. And if you take the time to listen to it, okay, he's got some pretty legitimate gripes. And so we've been poking the bear, and I think that NATO has essentially become an expansionist organization. It's a tool of the military-industrial complex, and they want to see this war go on no matter what. Which is why I can't stand Lindsey Graham, and I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. That son of a bitch. Okay, Lindsey Graham. Um, and I think that this is what we're dealing with. I mean, literally, you have almost all the forces right now in the world against Donald Trump and Bobby Kennedy because, I mean, think about it. They're coming against big ag. They're coming against big pharma. They're coming against the global one world order. Okay? I mean, they're coming against everybody. And everybody and the pedophiles too in the end, like it. I mean, there's certain stuff that he's not going on a limb on, but that those people are scared. And everything that they've ever had, everything their whole lives they've enjoyed, the power, the prestige, all that stuff Donald Trump threatens. They cannot let him be president again. They gummed it up the first time, and they know that they're not going to be able to gum it up the works like the second time around, because he's going to be lame duck and he's going to go full nuclear on these bastards, And I think that this is why his very life is in danger right now.
Hey, Truth.
Yeah.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah, shoot.
I'm just going to read. I mean, in terms of saving the country, and remembering who we are, I'm just going to read you something here. This is Second Chronicles out of the Old Testament, chapter 7:14. If my people who are called by my name humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sins and heal their land.
Yep. Nailed it.
I think that's where we are.
Yeah, that is. Which is why I have a show.
By the way, the general was talking about is Mark Milley.
Oh yeah, silly Millie. I hate that guy.
Yes, I remember now. He's just one. He's just one. There are many of them that haven't swayed yet, or haven't turned yet. So we don't know. I actually that's as far as I know. I don't haven't really gotten into finding out how many generals are flipped or turned on us. So I think right now it would safe to say that the majority of them haven't turned yet.
I'm going to say all of them, considering they're fucking sitting there allowing transvestites to,
sitting on their hands. Yeah,
exactly.
I understand that. Yeah, they're sitting on their laurels, just waiting for something. It almost feels like we're all in limbo, and it's sad. To me,
the only
feels
hope
that way.
I think the only hope there would be that there are people like in Hollywood that lay low. Right. There are people that they don't talk about things. They don't discuss their political alignments. And so, how many of those are there? That's the question that I have. There's got to be some.
Yeah.
I just don't know how
The
many.
silent majority. The silent majority. Yeah.
Well,
No doubt.
but that's and every one of. I mean, it's like, oh, when is courage going to be like a thing again? It's hard, but
when is somebody gonna when we're gonna start seeing advertisements with all the celebrity, turning, or being, more or less. I understand what you're saying.
Well, I get a question though. Has anybody heard an update on whether or not the whistleblower about the debate? You heard that there was apparently a car accident. Have you heard this news?
I think it's propaganda. I think somebody started a rumor, but I don't know. That's what I've been hearing. Just from the headlines and the posts that have been happening or that I've been reading. To me, I don't know. It just doesn't feel right.
Go ahead, Jay Sixer.
Oh no! Oh, I'm sorry. No, I read what I had to read. I just read that out of Second Chronicles. I think America needs to begin to dance with the one that brung us. This country was founded as a Christian nation. I think 25 out of 26 of the early states in the early 1800s you had to take an oath of that you were a Christian before you could even serve in government.
Oh.
The Constitution, Declaration of Independence, very much patterned after things in the Bible. The Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, the right to remain silent, is there because there were so many Christians that said, hey, Proverbs says it's good to remain silent. If I'm accused, I should be able to obey God's law. And they had to put it, Jefferson had to put it in the Bill of Rights to get anybody to go along with the Constitution.
So
Um,
I
so we're not dancing with the one that brung us. We're no longer a Christian nation. I think the Christians within this nation, if we will turn to God in this time, I think this ship could be turned.
Yeah, I agree with you. While I'm hoping so. Just a couple of comments that we've got. Warris said that there is no accident. It's been debunked. So apparently the whistleblower is alive and well, which is a good thing. That's very good.
I
And
don't think there's actually a whistleblower.
oh, you don't think so? Well, I saw an
No,
affidavit, I think.
no. There's been nothing official yet.
Okay. All right. I could have sworn my wife was looking at an affidavit, but I might be wrong. I also have Jono telling us that General Milley retired on September 30th of 2023.
Yeah.
So
There you go. See, he's just a retired. He's just retired.
yeah, yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
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 So
Yep.
he has no pull. He has nothing whatsoever in the active military right now. So yeah, that's awesome.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
but
Where
awesome.
do you guys think DEI and all this stuff started with? It started with the military academies. All
Well,
this
The
politically correct
DEI stuff,
education stuff,
the
yes, it
DEI
all
stuff,
started
it didn't
it all
start in the
started with the
military.
military academies. No, it
I
all
never.
started with the military academies. They were
Why?
the first ones. They were the first schools to have racial
Well, where did it
coding.
come from? The bureaucrats. It came from the bureaucrats. It didn't come from the military. The
No,
bureaucrats
but
then put that in their mind. Said, "Here, start doing this with the academies,
well, it's a
yes,
cultural.
let's
It's a
start pushing
and
it." So
everyone
anything
who
that
has
happens
trained
starts with the
under it,
bureaucrats. Yeah,
yes, but
of course.
everyone who is trained under it in the
Exactly.
past 30 years
That's right. They
is
infiltrated
is
our
likely a
military.
true believer.
Yep, they infiltrated the military. Yeah,
Yeah,
indeed, I
and
agree with you.
that's most of them, if not all of, especially the higher ranks.
Yeah, they
well,
probably picked and choose, but
I,
I don't think. I think we're at that point right now where we're discovering, and we can stop it.
well,
We can stop it from happening.
DEI has been a push that's come across. I mean, I can't tell you for sure that the first time ever where it was taught was in the military academy, but in my opinion, what I've seen is it was a push that happened simultaneously across all fronts in all education systems, whether it was DEI taught explicitly, as a concept to educators, or actually the DEI being fleshed out in the educational systems, as well as the military, as well as every single other place, all corporations, hospitals, everything. I mean, there's diversity, equity, and inclusion at our damned hospital system. And I'm just waiting to go in there and go, what happens when a black person is on my surgical team? And I'm going to have to go, oh, Jesus Christ. Now, can I please tell me when this person was hired and under what conditions they were hired? And, what's going to happen is the news is going to wind up next to my bed, right? Or I'm going to wind up dead, you know? But this madness, it's cultural Marxism, man, and it's been pushed down from forces that are, it's all the communists, but that communism is even driven further up and higher from the one world government types and all of that shit, right? It's designed to destroy the hegemony of the United States of America. It's designed to end the American empire. And we are in a culture in decline. And I'm
Oh
not
yeah,
and it's true. The only thing that is going to fix it is if we turn our faces back to God. Because I've said this before many times, is that as salt and light, the church has grown virtually completely cold, and we're just not in all the places we used to be, and we've been purged, and there's just not enough salt and light in the places to purify and preserve and sanitize and do all the things that salt is meant to do, right? And so, the remnant of Christ has to rise. And I believe it, to me, I don't know. I think that he's bringing in the last of us. That's my feeling on all this. I just got that. I don't know if you've ever heard the song by John Rich, Revelation. Apparently he that song came to him in a revelation, and he wrote that song, and it feels like it, a dark train coming, man. I just I'm not feeling real positive. I'm not feeling, I mean, I feel like there's going to be a revival, but it's going to come under persecution. And then the church will rise. And then, I don't know, whatever happens next is going to happen next. But I don't think it's going to be pretty. But we need to repent, definitely. I mean, if we don't, we're toast. We're done. We're not going to vote our way out of this, and we're not going to fight our way out of this.
Well, we're not going to just pray our way out of this either. It's going to be a combination of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, but it's if we fail to see the spiritual solution on top of the political solution, it isn't going to make any difference, right? Because it's got to be both. And when Jay Sixer talked about, Second Chronicles 7:14, is that I've been saying that we all need to have a personal holiness about us. If you're Christian, right now, the time is to put the stupid shit behind you. Put childish things behind you right now, okay? If you're drinking, if you're doing drugs, if you're fucking off and you're wasting your time, right now is the time that we need to put that crap behind us. And so this is a clarion call that I've been doing. I've been screaming that's at the top of my lungs, is that now is the time for the dead bones, right? The sleepers to awaken, because it's not going to happen without people that are Christian and getting up and doing things like running for offices and going back and taking government back. This idea that, religion doesn't belong in government is stupid, right? It should be filled with Christians, right? And it infuriates me, to tell you the truth, to see Muslims in our government. Really ticks me off. And you might call me a racist or whatever, but the hell with you. I don't care.
Well, the entire basis of our laws lies within the Ten Commandments.
That's right.
It's the truth. And the problem is, though, is that we have done everything to erode all the Judeo-Christian and really actual Christian underpinnings of this entire nation. And so we've said,
And they have used the courts to do it.
yes, since the 60s, absolutely.
Yep.
And we're
Yeah,
fine.
I grew up in the '60s, and I remember when there was prayer in school, and then there wasn't. And I remember some
It's
of
all
those
been
landmark
downhill from
cases. I
there.
mean, I was just a kid. But yeah, that we've chased God out of the public square, and simultaneously, the churches themselves have diluted the Bible and diluted doctrine to the point that most churches these days, or at least the really big successful ones, are just sort of come here, get your ears tickled, be told what you want to hear, live your best life now, blah blah blah. We've lost that solid Puritan Presbyterian doctrine that built this
Are
country.
you a Reformed Presbyterian?
Oh yeah.
Oh shit, are you really?
Well,
Damn,
in my bio, when I say a real Presbyterian, it's like ARP, a real
Oh
Associate
shit. Then you
Reformed
know who
Presbyterian.
RC Sproul is, I imagine.
I listen to Sproul usually, what, 2 or 3 times a week. I'll pull up a Sproul on
Yeah.
Ligonier. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I was in a Reformed Baptist church for the longest time, right? The only thing we differ on pretty much is paedo baptism, dude.
That's right.
I'm a big Charles Spurgeon fan, so
Yeah.
Have you
I was
guys
at an
ever
infant
read?
baptism this morning. You'll be happy to know.
oh, okay. Listen, as long as it's a consecration unto the Lord, I don't have a problem with it, man. I went and worshipped at R.C. Stott's church over in England. So
Right.
yeah, man. So what were we gonna say, Mayo? Somebody's gonna say something.
Have you guys ever read the 45 communist goals that were read into the congressional record in 1963 by a
Yeah.
congressman from Florida?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I've read
have
it.
that. I have read that. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
You have that handy?
Yes, I do, sir.
Oh,
Where can
well,
I send you the link?
just read it, man.
Oh,
If you want to. I mean, or you can send
yep,
it to me
that's
and I'll
fine.
read it. I don't
That,
care. I mean,
That's
I know
fine.
I got this smooth radio voice, right? I can read everything really good.
Now, at the end of every one, I want to tell you if you think it's complete or not. Number one, the acceptance of coexistence as the only alternative to atomic war. Mutually assured destruction.
Yeah, they've hit that one.
Yep.
Yep.
Complete.
U.S. willingness to capitulate in preference to engaging in atomic war.
Complete.
Yep.
Yep. Develop the illusion that total disarmament by the United States would be a demonstration of moral strength.
Complete. Obama made sure of that one.
Uh-huh.
Permit free trade between all nations regardless of communist affiliation and regardless of whether or not the items could be used for war.
Yeah, done.
Nixon.
Yep.
Extension of long-term loans to Russia and Soviet satellites. Complete.
Check.
Provide American aid to all nations regardless of communist denomination.
Check.
Grant recognition of Red China, admission of Red China into the UN.
Check.
Set up East and West Germany as separate states in spite of Khrushchev's promise in 1955 to settle the German question by free elections under supervision of the UN.
Check.
Well, no, that got
Partially.
quashed by
Partially.
Glasnost, but yeah, but it was headed that way. Prolonged conferences to ban atomic tests because the United States has agreed to suspend all tests as long as negotiations are in progress.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Allow all Soviet satellites individual representation in the UN. That happened.
Yeah.
That happened, and it's happening with China.
Yep. Promote the UN as the only hope for mankind.
Oh.
If its charter is rewritten, demand that it be set up as a one-world government with its own independent armed forces. Some communist leaders believe the world can be taken over easily by the UN.
Right. So basically, communism is demonic and it's from the pit of hell. Just
Yes.
yeah, pretty much.
Resist any attempt to outlaw the Communist Party.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Do away with loyalty oaths.
Have
Have they not getting rid of
I've
the
seen
flag?
that. Yes, and
Yep.
I've yes.
And the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And there's more. There's something else that yes, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
Continue giving Russia access to the U.S. Patent Office.
That I don't know.
Yeah, it's been done. So the
Hey
Sikorsky
guys,
brothers.
hey guys, could I interrupt for a second? I've got to go down for a minute. I got to take care of a couple of things. I'll try to get back to this space, but thank you so much.
Oh yeah, man. Yep.
All
All right,
it.
man.
Truth, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Jay Sixer.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. See, the Sikorsky brothers had free communication, personal and technical, between each other. One built helicopters for Russia, the other for the U.S.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Capture one or both political parties in the United States.
Yeah, that's done. Done. Way done.
Yeah.
Gee, which
now
one
this
is it?
This is where we really get into the social side of this. Use technical decisions of the courts to weaken basic American institutions by claiming their activities violate civil rights.
Check.
Get control of the schools. Use them as transmission belts for socialism and current communist propaganda.
Yep.
Soften the curriculum. Get control of the teachers' associations. Put the party line in textbooks.
Oh wow, all of it, every one, man. Every one of those is a check mark. You know, Randy Weingarten, right? Wow.
Yep. Gain control of all student newspapers.
Check.
Yep. Use student riots to foment public protests against programs or organizations which are under communist attack.
This is almost ridiculous.
It's almost 100% complete. Infiltrate the press. Get control of book review assignments, editorial writing, and policy-making positions.
Yep.
Check.
Gain control of key positions in radio, TV, and motion pictures.
Yep.
Check.
Continue discrediting American culture by degrading all forms of artistic expression. An American
Check.
communist cell was told to eliminate all good sculpture from parks, buildings, and substitute shapeless and awkward and meaningless forms.
Yep.
Check. Thank you, BLM. Fuckers.
Yep. Control art critics and directors of museums. Our plan is to promote ugliness, repulsive, and meaningless art.
Listen, not only
Check.
that, look
I
at
see a lot of that in gaming, by the way.
yes, and
Oh,
look,
yeah.
look at architecture, guys.
Oh, yeah.
The brute
It's
architecture.
all brutalist.
It is. It's
It's
terrible.
all brutalist Marxist architecture.
Yeah, all you got to do is look at the old commie blocks and then look at the fucking trash that we're building these days. It's the same shit.
What is that
Yep.
bullshit? The African American Museum looks like a fucking upside down. The shit they build, it's just like you look at it, it's
The
disgusting.
monument in Boston to MLK. Have you guys seen that?
Is that the one they were all offended about?
Yeah, it looked like a big penis,
Yeah.
Yeah.
going into a backside. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that.
Eliminate all laws governing obscenity by calling them censorship and a violation of free speech and free press.
Check.
Break down cultural standards of morality by promoting pornography and obscenity in books, magazines, motion pictures, radio, and TV.
Yep.
Check.
Yep.
Now, listen to the last three words in this, okay? Present homosexuality, degeneracy, and promiscuity as normal, natural, and healthy.
Check.
Wow.
They literally use their words of normal, natural, and healthy.
Wow.
Infiltrate the churches and replace reviled religion with social religion. Discredit the Bible and emphasize the need for an intellectual maturity, which does not need a religious crutch.
Oh, they got a pope doing that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Eliminate prayer or any phrase of religious expression in schools on the grounds that it violates the principle of separation of church and state.
Check.
Yep.
Discredit the American Constitution by calling it inadequate, old-fashioned, out of step with modern needs, and a hindrance in cooperation between nations on a worldwide basis.
Remind us again when this was written and filed in Congress.
1963, sir. And it was pretty much extracted from the book The Naked Communist, which I think came out in 58. And yes, what did Obama call the U.S. Constitution? A charter of negative liberties?
Yeah.
Yep.
Discredit the American founding fathers. Present them as selfish aristocrats who had no concern for the common man.
Yes.
Check.
Belittle all forms of American culture and discourage teaching of American history on the grounds that it was only a minor part of the big picture.
Check.
Wow.
Support any socialist movement to give centralized control over any part of culture, education, social agencies, welfare programs, mental health clinics.
Check.
Eliminate all laws or procedures which interfere with the operation of the communist apparatus. We literally used to have a congressional group. Like we have the justice. I'm drawing a blank at what they are. The committees. We used to have a committee on
Oversight.
un-American activities.
Oversight. An oversight committee, yeah.
Yeah.
Not anymore, I don't imagine.
Yeah.
By the way, that's a check too.
Yeah. Eliminate all laws which discredit and eventually dismantle the FBI. They've definitely discredited it.
Yeah, they definitely have, and I think that the only thing is they would have modified it is take control of it, use it.
Yeah, yeah. Infiltrate and gain control of unions.
Yes.
Check.
Yeah. Infiltrate and gain control of big business.
Hmm.
Sort of.
You know, a
Now,
lot of
this is a big one. This is a big one right here. Transfer some of the powers of arrest from police to social agencies. Treat,
that's
I
with the
I
yes,
whole
I
defund
think
the
we're in the slap
police.
middle of that right now.
yep. Treat all behavioral problems as psychiatric disorders which no one but a psychiatrist can understand or treat.
Huh. Huh.
We're doing that right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dominate the psychiatric profession and use mental health laws as a means of gaining coercive controls over those who oppose communist goals.
Ooh.
Check. We've seen that with fucking COVID. We're seeing that with the turning kids transgender bullshit.
Yep. Discredit the family as an institution. Encourage promiscuity and easy divorce.
Yep. 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 No fault divorce, and then BLM had eliminating the nuclear family, if you remember that.
Yep. Oh, emphasize the need to raise children away from the negative influence of
Of their
parents.
parents. Yes. This is even earlier, dude. This comes up
Yes.
with Rockefeller and Dewey, man.
Yeah. Attribute prejudices, mental blocks, and retarding of children as the suppressive influence of parents.
Check.
Yep.
Create the impression that violence and insurrection are legitimate aspects of the American tradition. That students in special interest groups should rise up using united force to solve economic, political, or social problems.
2020.
Now, this is a big one worldwide, especially in Africa. Overthrow all colonial governments before native populations are ready for self-government.
We do that all the time.
And that's been done in Africa. That's why China right now is taking Africa.
Yep.
Internationalize the Panama Canal. Been done. It's been sold.
Wow.
Repeal the Conley Reservation so the United States cannot prevent the World Court from seizing jurisdiction over domestic problems and over nations and individuals alike. That has
Check.
not been, that's the
It's
one that has
partial.
not been done.
It's partially done.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
they're trying. I mean, we do defer to international law at times.
And anybody that,
Only when convenient, though.
yeah. And anybody that questions this, it's literally on the Marxist.org website under subject, art, and literature, children, reference, government.
All right, we're starting to pick up steam in the spaces. We've gathered quite a few more listeners. If any of you would like to step up and talk, please just request, and we'll get you set up to where you can talk with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And we happen to be talking about the how many 45 points of communism that that were read into Congress, I guess, in 1963 in a congressional record. But
Yes.
we started
Yes.
out talking about the Trump assassination attempt, number 2. But we're, I mean, generally talking about the destruction and falling apart of our current form of government, and is it salvageable, and how is it salvageable? I think. So we do have a request to speak. Clark wants to have a say. So what's up, Clark? Welcome to have a chat. I invited him.
I okayed him to speak.
Okay.
Clark, you got something to say?
What's up? I was trying to see if you guys seen all this stuff about the shooter in Ukraine and who he was following and all his replies and tweets.
No, bring us up to date. I don't know about the rest of these guys, but I follow Ukraine about as much as I follow American politics, which is very, Yeah, go ahead, enlighten us.
Yeah, well, the shooter today, um, he was trying to recruit foreigners to go fight in Ukraine. I have a bunch of screenshots of all that. I mean, it's all over. You can see it on pretty much any big account.
Oh yeah, you're talking about the shooter, the Trump shooter.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Truth Slinger did a show about that earlier, and we brought that. That was discussed partially, but um,
Yeah, the guy was a real scumbag, man. I mean, he was over. We saw a video of him earlier when I was on live. And yeah, he was over there talking about how wonderful it is to be over there and all the people that love freedom. And we just need to demonstrate how much we love on these people and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. So yeah, he's all hooked up in some stuff, and he's clearly somebody that is going to just run off with something that is, ideological. So he was perfect, I guess, fertile soil for this kind of stuff and all this nonsense that we kept hearing about. Over and over and over and over and over again, the mantra that Donald Trump is a literal threat to democracy, which I've about had it up to my ass with. I don't know about all y'all.
Yes. Yeah, especially since we're a constitutional republic.
Yeah, that's about time to introduce that into the conversation. Absolutely. People forget that all the time.
well, that's
They're
that's
gonna
part of the
pretend.
Democratic messaging. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
My bad. I was just gonna say that they're just gonna pass the shooter off as, oh, he's crazy, but I guarantee he had connections out the ass. I guarantee it.
I think I'm pretty sure, and of course, this is all just my gut feeling here. But I think that these people are contracted in one way or another by the United States government, right? Most likely in a
Well,
clandestine way. They don't know they're being affected, but they're being affected. They're being driven to do this kind of stuff. Some of it very implicitly, and I think some of it more explicitly.
well, I wouldn't doubt if you're going to find out this guy was a paid influencer, but by the looks of what was left of his Twitter account.
Well, that would be interesting, and the question is how much are we going to find out about him? I mean, look how much we know about the. Apparently, we had some encrypted accounts or something, and I heard rumors back when that the guy had like $4.5 million or something like that, and then I heard that they were messaging apps that were encrypted, not bank accounts, and so and we still don't know because the FBI is in charge of the investigation. Do we see any press conferences from the Secret Service anymore? No. What about the
No.
FBI? No. Is this going to be memory hole just like the other ones?
Yes.
Well, that's no good. So, I don't know, man. I don't know. Anybody else want to have it take a turn at
This
the
was a
mic,
good way
guys?
to cover up the last one, though,
Well, it was a whole.
because the last one is the more serious one. Because, at least in my opinion, because there was a failure on so many different levels in the last one.
Statistically speaking, it was impossible for all those mistakes to have happened. There's just no way that there was that much incompetence, that the incompetence wasn't used by someone deliberately to make something happen, if there was incompetence at all involved in what happened the first time.
Lars, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Hey guys, I was just wondering who thinks that this guy will make it a week or two. Do you think they'll Lee Harvey Oswald him or not?
Well,
They'll Epstein him.
from what I understand, Truth Singer put a post out about this that the DeSantis come out and said that Florida was going to investigate this guy. So that sounds like, and I stand corrected because I thought that they would immediately turn him over to the FBI, but apparently that's not going to be the case. And Florida, I want to play around in Florida.
Yeah, I think they need to take a turn at him, and I think that there definitely is a danger to just making this guy go away. But I've also, and I can't remember for the life of me who was the one that tweeted it today or sent a post out about it on X today, but said, "Mark my words." Who was it? Said, "Mark my words that this guy was caught alive for a reason." Mark my words. And I'm like going, all right, I'm marking your words. I don't remember who you are, but I don't know what that would be. Does anybody have any idea why in the world they would deliberately want to leave the guy alive? Because it was real cryptic.
Oh, I mean, to leave him, because he literally looks pro-left on the social media that we have seen.
He does, and I mean the stuff that I've seen, and he's pulling up his. I don't know if you've seen the picture of his abs, but they were like real druggy, if you know what I mean. If you know,
Oh
you
yeah,
Did
he
you
looks
guys
methy. He looks
did,
methy.
did you guys see what Laura Loomer posted about him?
no, I don't think so.
He said that he was recruiting Nazis out of Florida to join the Nazi brigade over there in the Ukraine.
Uh,
You're not doing that without some kind of government CIA backing.
You talking about Azov?
Yep.
Why did I know their name was going to come up in this conversation?
Yeah, that's what Laura Loomer had just posted.
And I would not doubt it at all.
yeah,
But,
well,
but
she's
what we have evidence of is he was actually recruiting for a 3,000 person foreign brigade.
yeah.
That's literally what his Twitter says. I've seen no indication of or mention of Azov in any of his writing. I like to go off what I can prove, not what people say.
Yeah, but Laura Loomer, she's got some solid people
She's
that
usually right.
bring her news. Yeah, so
Yeah, she's usually right.
Do you
She's
remember?
talking to Alex Jonesy.
Do you remember a while back, Laura
yeah,
Loomer?
yeah. Wait, hold on. Alex Jonesy. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
But how many times has he been correct?
Good
Like
point.
99% of the
But
time.
how many times has he embellished stories too? I'm not talking against the man. I mean, the Alex Jones was right jar is full of money right now.
Right, but everybody has their day. He
If
shouldn't
she
have went
says
there about
that,
the schools, but I agree with
but
that.
if she says that, she needs to post the evidence.
Yeah, I do tend to agree. People should bring receipts. Now tell me something. Who is it? Who's Azov again?
That's the supposed Nazi brigade in Ukraine.
Okay,
Part of the Ukraine. They were indoctrinated into the Ukrainian army.
That's what I thought. Now there's a guy. Laura Loomer's come across some of these guys, these Nazis, these white supremacists before, and there was a guy that was up here actually in Maine that had a camp up here until they chased his ass out of there. And this is another one of these.
Up what border crossing is that in northern Franklin County?
I don't know. Hang on, just talk about it because I got to let this stupid dog out.
Yeah, he went up there and wanted to start a white supremacist community in Maine.
But at what point do we not move these white supremacists that, like the Azov type people to the left? Because they always get labeled as far right. And, I've been doing work to try to get Trump in since 2015. And I personally haven't come across one of these motherfuckers. So when do we move these guys to the left? Because it's the left that is perpetrating this war.
Well, I just want to jump in real quick here and say we have to stop talking about left and right. Those old terms no longer work. It's America first.
We need to stop talking about left and right in the
Yeah,
purview of U.S. politics.
and and as far as we're concerned too, there's no left and
No,
right
I
anymore.
would say
That's old. That's old nonsense. The Republican, Democrat, left and right thing. That's all
no,
nonsense.
but that's in the U.S. concept of left and right. The world concept of left and right is the right is anti-government, the left is pro-government.
Actually, the right's not anti-government at all. The right is very pro-military, a huge military.
No, I'm talking in the world concept of left and right. Have you ever, that study they always tout about right-wing terrorism in the United States and how it's a
Well,
big problem?
anyway, we're kind of steering away from what I was trying to say. It's America first versus everybody else. Most of the people who call themselves right and Republicans are not anybody who's on your side. The Republican Party, whether you want to admit it or not, is more socialist than it is about freedom and individual liberty and rights. The Republican Party in D.C. is more Chris Christie and Mitt Romney than it is Donald Trump and, say, Matt Gaetz. That's the truth. We know this.
100%.
We have to stop pretending. We
denying
have to stop pretending the Republican Party is a great thing and the Democratic Party sucks. They both suck.
True.
We have to basically combine them together, the uniparty, which is what they are, and talk about America first. Look at Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. These people are not right wing. They are not Republicans, but I would trust both of them over most of the people in the Republican Party today.
Well, yeah, but what is the Azov Battalion? They're nationalists.
I don't know. I wasn't talking about that. I'm talking about Republicans. We have to stop talking about this right, left, Republican, Democrat thing.
Yeah,
Talking.
let me break in here and kind of make a comment that somebody said from the YouTube chat that said the right believes in small government and the left believes in more government. And I would say that that might have been true many years ago, would be my input on that. I don't think that's true anymore. I think the uniparty is always in favor of growing the government. I don't think the government gets smaller. I don't think it matters who's in charge, Republican, left, right, Democrat, Republican. What say you guys?
I think the extremes on both sides are so corrupted that they're pretty much the same people anymore. And I think everyone else falls somewhere in the middle.
Chuck, I think you're 100% on that.
Yep. That's why, like we're kind of the MAGA is now kind of the big tent, that's bringing people with common sense together, no matter what side of the aisle you used to say you were on or not, because people can recognize that, like Mitt Romney and these guys on the far right, they don't represent our values anymore. And it's the same on the left, the people on the extreme side of the left. They don't represent the values of the people that were more centrist on that side anymore. And they're all in bed with the same people. They're all bought and paid for by the same people. So
I don't
it's
see
us
how
in the
you.
center and those on the extremes.
I don't see how you can call Mitt Romney far right. He's more to the left. he's not far right. Far right to me is Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz, and I'm more in line with them than Mitt Romney, who's more to the left. He's more of a socialist, as far as I'm concerned.
I have to agree,
Let's
Waz.
be honest. Most New England Republicans are Democrats from 20 years ago.
That's true also, Mayor.
Yeah, so they're not far right.
No. I mean,
No, I'm
Obamacare was
saying
modeled
they
off
are
of
the
Mitt
same.
Romney's plan when he was the governor in Massachusetts.
Yeah,
What we have gotten away from, though, is common sense. These people, far left, far right, there's no common sense anymore. Nobody is thinking of the constitutional republic anymore. They're just one side or the other. We need to get back to the constitutional republic.
Well, that's because they've actually talked people into thinking we have a democracy.
Yeah, it's the false dichotomy of choice. We don't really have a choice. And the problem is the reason that the whole damn system is upside down on its head right now is they've been feeding us these bullshit choices for years. It doesn't matter who won, okay, Bush or Gore. It wouldn't have really mattered, not to the people up top, the elites who make all the difference, right? They're the ones who make all the damn decisions. Until Donald Trump came along, he wasn't supposed to win. And he is not one of the acceptable choices. He's not one of the ones that came out of Bohemian Grove and the Bilderberg Group and all that bullshit, globalistic crap. He's an outsider. And that's exactly why he's a threat to the entire system.
And that scares me to death. What do we do? Trump wins, then in 4 years, these people will not stop. It's just so unbelievable to me.
No, they've been playing the long game for over 50 years.
We also have
That's
to
the
remember.
problem. Our side doesn't have a long game.
We also have to remember that Donald Trump is merely one man, and even if he gets elected again, he's only going to get us like 1 or 2% of the way there. We have to make it happen. He's not going to change a whole hell of a lot. He did the first term. He's not going to change it the second term. We have to do it ourselves.
Yeah,
he's a speed bump.
I mean, government is not going. You're not going to change the system from the inside. The system is rigged in favor of government, in favor of big government.
Yeah, Waz, we're having trouble hearing you. You're muffled.
Nobody's going to come inside, and no matter who the president is, they're not going to change it. And Tim's obviously right about Trump. They want to take him out because he's the one who wants to throw a monkey wrench into the whole system. If the Republican nominee was Mitt Romney or somebody like a Bush or something like that, the deep state be like, fine, hey, we got our puppet, no matter who it is, Republican, Democrat. If it's Mitt Romney or Nikki Haley, for example, versus Kamala Harris, they're like, fine, we'll take either one because we can use either one. Either one will do what we want them to do, and we all set. Trump is the guy who wants to mess everything up. That's why the left, they did the same thing with Bernie Sanders. Now, Bernie Sanders is a socialist. I don't like the guy politically, but he's somebody on the other end, so to speak, who wanted to throw a monkey wrench in the system,
Right,
and they put a kibosh on that when he was running against Hillary Clinton, because he was doing very, very well against Hillary. And all of a sudden, bam, they pulled the rug out from under his feet, and basically sent him tumbling down the stairs, and it was Hillary in 2016.
Yeah, you're right. He was a disruptor on that side, and he was unacceptable as well to the machine, right? The one that produces those two choices that we have. And we all knew it. We all know it, because what have we been saying for the last 40 years? Well, I guess you got to pick the lesser of two evils, right? We all knew it in our gut. They're both bullshit choices, because ultimately we all end up in the end. And the problem is that up to now, over the years, it's been more subtle, right? Yeah, well, we got to do this because of this, and we have to do this because of this, and you don't understand, national security. And we all went, and but now it's like they just right out there in our faces flaunt the fact that they'll just do whatever is best for America, not us.
Yeah, well, now they have the FISA courts as their vehicle to do it.
Well, the FISA court, my God, the whole damn FISA court should be completely dismantled.
9/11 brought all this crap in, George Bush. I mean, the whole thing, it really started going, things were bad before that, but they really took off after 9/11.
Yeah, the Patriot Act.
Yeah, the so-called Patriot Act, which is very unpatriotic as can be, just as the Affordable Care Act is unaffordable as could be. And both are unconstitutional as far as I'm concerned, and they're un-American, without question. You remember you're either with us or with the Patriots. Remember that bullshit 20 years ago?
Yeah, I do.
Well, and Bush gave them the government, and Obama gave them society.
And one thing you have to give Obama credit for his side, is he packed every bureaucracy he could with loyalists before he went out. And
That's
Trump,
right.
that was the one mistake Trump made, is he did not dismantle that the first time around.
A word of hope,
No, and starting
if
with
I
the
may.
DOJ, that's why they had charges against him. So he couldn't.
Go ahead, Sharp.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, a little word of hope in this is that, yeah, it's gloomy, dark times for anyone that will call themselves conservative. And if we, history rhymes, and you think about, in the 50s in particular, there was a group of economists. Milton Friedman was one of them. F.A. Hayek, that they met at this place called the Mont Pelerin Society. They created this society where they looked at how terrible things were after the New Deal, after World War II, all the growth of government, and they ended up coordinating and coming together. And all these individuals that understand the confines of the structure of the Constitution and what our country was designed to be, they ended up coming together and reviving the conservative movement. And that's something that I think is on the forefront for us today, where people can't lose hope. They've got to just find like-minded individuals that are going to return our country back to first principles.
I can only speak for myself, but I'm very hopeful. I'm white-pilled. I'm not black-pilled at all. When I'm saying all this stuff, I'm saying all this negative stuff, but I honestly think people are going to finally wake up and realize big government is not the way. We either have to drastically reduce the size of the federal government or get rid of the whole damn federal government altogether. I mean, let's think about this honestly. Hear me out. We have in our country 5,682 layers of government right now. You've got your federal government, you have your state governments, you have your county governments, you have your city governments. How many layers of oppression does a free people really need? Do we need a federal government to put his boot on top of all of our necks, on top of all the government we already have now? Is that
No,
really necessary?
I'm right in line with you. I believe our founding fathers would be rolling in their grave. The federal government had two roles when they created it. Is to provide a national army and to mediate between disputes of the states. And like look where they have grown to now. So I'm right
Well,
with you on that.
our founding fathers foresaw this because this is exactly where democracies, quote unquote, lead. And so this is they knew history. They were students of history. You look at their contemporaries, you look across the pond, Edmund Burke writing about the French Revolution. This is something that the Enlightenment and these individuals that knew the precarious situation of enabling the mobs, right, or the masses with democracy. King Demos is this is something that they were very privy to. And what we need to do, and this is something that there are tools put in place in our form of government to return back to first principles. There are tools put in place to limit government. And like was alluded to too with Truthslinger, you described it as like we've got this uniparty. We've had people who, in our voting populace, conservatives in particular, that have just allowed the slide toward the uniparty. And individuals who campaign, they put on their campaign literature, oh yeah, I'm super conservative. Then they get into whatever environment, and they're captured by the lobbyists or they're compromised. And this is just human nature, and the lobby corps in DC and all of our state houses are very good at this. And so you just have to, the people have to realize that this is going to come to a head sooner or later, and it's just is going to be more painful if it's later.
Well,
And
might I interject for a moment? It sounds like you're kind of saying this is sort of a correction, and this was foreseen, and that the sort of the white pill part of this is that it's going to correct itself. But I'm not quite sure if you were here when Mayo Monkey read the 45 points of communism that are almost complete. Right? I mean, literally, it feels like a James Bond movie, like they're sliding in the last cylinder, and now, the great plan will be complete, and it's all going to come down, and that's where
And
I get discouraged.
and the 13 enumerated powers of Congress have been violated by the court and extended by the courts. Ever since that first decision where I forget what president it was a Supreme Court decision about interstate commerce, where the Supreme Court said that a guy in Ohio, I forget what state it was, who was selling wheat in Ohio had to go by the price set federally because it could have been sold across state lines.
yeah, and these aspects,
And that's from like the 1800s.
Well, it's
No,
almost like we're fighting a losing battle because one of the greatest victories they have is they had the foresight to take over the education system many years ago, and they own the media. So getting other people to even open their eyes and even learn a little bit is an uphill battle. And then you have to find enough like-minded people to actually enact change. So that's where the disheartening part is to me. It's like,
Well,
where are you ever going to find enough people that actually paid attention to anything?
well, and
And
the
yeah,
other,
you guys are on point, no doubt. What I'm saying is that, in the grand scheme of history, like, this is something that isn't necessarily new, and that's why I say, Google the Mont Pelerin Society. They met in Switzerland, but in terms of this, yeah, an uphill battle. That's what we're designed to do as human beings, especially conservatives. Like, if it were easy, we'd remember the name of Millard Fillmore, but we don't. We remember the names of individuals that stepped up in the time where it wasn't easy. And that's going to be upon this generation. That's why we're here. That's why we're called to the task. And that's why we've got to be fortified upon a solid foundation.
I think that where I see the problem is that many of the safeguards that we've been talking about, that perhaps maybe you're saying that we need to be depending on, have been eroded. Okay, like for example, recusing yourself even when there's an appearance of evil. Come on, okay? The Democrats, they just don't do that, like, ever. So that's completely out the window. Certain norms that we've had, like, I don't know, complying with subpoenas. They're throwing the MAGA movement folks in jail. But of course, Hillary Clinton, the person
Fannie
that
Willis.
worked on her server, right, and right, other people that defy congressional subpoenas, they can go pound salt, because the Congress has no power whatsoever to do anything with they can't imprison anybody. They don't have policing power, so they have to.
Yes, they can, and they did it. They put Steve, what's his name, in
Bannon.
jail. The Republicans just won't do it. The Democrats have no problem putting the January
McCarthy has
6ers
no
in
backbone.
prison and all that.
So back when
They're
Theodore,
not afraid to use their power.
so
The
before
Democrats are not.
Theodore Roosevelt became Theodore Roosevelt, one of the things that he cut his teeth on was being a civil service reformer, right? And so the parties and the bosses were extremely intense. Like, we think about, if you want to compare something, go back to 1880, 1890 New York, and you look at the corruption, the widespread just awfulness. And then you got a guy like TR that, cuts his teeth in terms of even calling out his own Republicans under the Harrison administration. It's just incredible. So, we have this opportunity, like Mayo even mentioned, is that Republicans aren't doing the job. Well, that's why a new breed of Republicans or a new party is going to be revived from the ashes of, the conservative movement. And then this is what our country, when I talk about safeguards, the people are sovereign. And the problem is that the people don't realize the power that they have. They don't understand that they are sovereign. They're captured by whatever ideologies or talking points of the people they elect. And when it gets hard enough, or when it gets tough enough, which that's on the forefront, unfortunately, then people have to be involved. I got a 1935 Reader's Digest here in my library, and that point in time, you think about it. It's between the world wars. It's coming out of the Great Depression, and 95% of recipients, they had 100 question survey on these just intense questions, and 95% of Americans had a well thought out response. And this is one of the first, whatever Gallup polls or Pew polls before it was called that. And this Reader's Digest describes that these Americans were deeply in tune with what was going on, deeply scrutinizing their public officials. And we're just not even close to that, because we haven't been. We've got Netflix, we've got billboards, we've got all these things come and play. I'm going to go, play Call of Duty tonight all night. Our young men are, watching porn and doing all this nonsense because they can. And we're cursed by our blessings currently. And when the pinch comes, it'll revive that spirit. And there's got to be statesmen and women who are going to come into the fold and be able to guide the country in the right direction, like it always has been. And that's something that we've got to be prepared for.
So when is the pain going to come?
Well, that's where the doom and gloom that we're talking about here, and the things that are on the forefront. Yeah, I completely agree. We're going to have to go through some immense hardship. And whether that be, from my understanding, what it seems like is anytime any economic problems come, or, really strong problems on the home front, we've got folks in DC that start a war to remedy that, right? Wars are the ways that we bring people together. You look at Operation Northwoods that was, presented to JFK in the 60s of, bringing about attacks on the home front. This was classified, or declassified like 15 years ago. Like all these things that are coming down, you already see the deep state really starting to bounce against Trump, bounce against any type of people conversing, like having these conversations. They're like the intimidation by the FBI, CIA, going to people's doorsteps. You've got the gender theorists who anyone speaking out against that, right? The FBI or DOJ shows up on their doorstep. So you see a lot of people rattled that are in power right now because they know that the folks in the silent majority are waking up to the problems that our leaders have mishandled our nation, and that just is what happens in the ebbs and flows of this nation if you look at history.
Yeah,
And look at the 3 presidents or presidential candidates who have actually been struck by bullets in modern times.
I was going to
They
say,
were
I'm glad.
3 people that weren't in the community.
I was going to say, I'm glad you mentioned the economy because most people don't understand this. At some point, the dollar is going to collapse. The fiat dollar that we have right now is crap. Most people don't understand that. They say, "Oh, it's the best currency in the world." The honest God truth is just horrible.
Hang on a
It's
second.
the dollar is backed by nothing. It's fiat currency. Go ahead, Tim. What are you going to say?
No, I want you to go on, but and pick up with what you were saying. But I don't want to lose this. We got a guy says Range Riot Live on YouTube says I don't buy this fear mongering about things are gonna get rough. Life will continue with ups and downs. And he says, true slinger, but that's a minority opinion on the grand scheme of things. Okay, so I want to throw that out there as meat for you guys to tear apart because we got somebody out there that doesn't think things are going to have to get worse before they get better. And I couldn't vehemently disagree any more than I do, but I want to let you guys talk about it.
Our cities are currently going third world. London has already has entered the third world completely. And our cities are headed there.
I mean, technically what he says is true. We all know that life has its ups and downs. That's going to happen no matter what. It doesn't matter who you are, right? You all have your ups and downs, Jim. We all experience this. You do, I do, everybody else does. But yeah, it's going to, I think it's going to crash in a big way. And Sharper Word was mentioning F.A. Hayek. I'm a big fan of his. I'm big on economics. He won the Nobel Peace Prize, I believe, in the 1970s for economics. I'm a big fan of his and Murray Rothbard, so I'm really into economics in that. And but yeah, the dollar is going to collapse. And you can see these countries in Europe and that they're moving away from the dollar. Do not be surprised if so many countries are going to gang up and say, look, we just going to, the dollar is not going to be the currency anymore. It's not going to be the gold standard because the dollar is crap. Our government, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, is using the dollar to manipulate everybody else around the world. And we just print money like crazy. In fact, we don't even print it anymore. It's just all done digitally these days. The money itself doesn't actually exist half the time. All this stuff is done on computers.
Hey, Waz, have you been keeping track of BRICS?
I have not kept up on that lately, no.
Yeah, there's supposed to be a big summit here coming up really soon. I'm not exactly sure when, but the theory is that's when BRICS is actually going to go into effect. And when that happens, it's going to start leading towards what you're speaking about right now. It's going to accelerate that.
Well, I'm curious.
Yeah, but the problem is neither Russia or China right now want to be that currency.
I'm curious about if any of these currencies are going to be sound money. Is anybody going to use sound money anymore? I don't know. Maybe Sharper Word might know. Does anybody actually use sound money these days in any country that you know of?
So like James A. Garfield was lamenting this back in his day, before he got shot, when he was huge in the House of Representatives in Congress. He was an Ohio State senator before the Civil War. And yeah, the whole issue of fiat money is that, what is it drawn toward? And the reason that money has value is because we have faith in it and we're told that it has value, right?
Yeah.
And that's also the concern about how, with the petrodollar, the dollar is strong because America has been strong militarily. And, when that gets shook, and especially with some of the stuff that we're seeing here on the forefront, either with Ukraine or Israel, and whatever that anyone wants to look at with that, that's why part of the U.S. policy, it seems, from D.C. is so belligerent, because that is what keeps things strong, on top of some of the DC warmongers that are very bloodthirsty to just make their will be done.
And what's interesting too about the founding documents is, I believe if it's a constitution, they refer to the government coining money. Coining money. There was no mention of paper money at all. The founders understood paper money was bad, and they wanted to avoid it altogether.
Well, Jefferson was always hesitant about having a central bank as well.
In gold or silver. In the Constitution, it was to be coined in gold or silver.
Well, finance was that was a huge debate between Hamilton, Jeffersonians, right? All that was a huge debate at the beginning. And, obviously here we are. We're riding the stream of decisions that got made.
And Hamilton was for, go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
If you take a pre-64 silver dime today, right? In 1964, that dime would buy you a loaf of bread. That same dime today, in today's silver value, will buy you a $5 loaf of bread.
And
the
today's
value
dime
of our money has gone down.
And the actual dimes made today aren't worth crap. They're worth like a half a penny. I mean, they use this cheap aluminum or whatever the hell they use. Mm-hmm. But the founders knew this. They wanted to avoid paper money. And I could be wrong. Somebody correct me, but I believe it really took off around the Civil War, because the government wanted
the silver certificates. They did the silver certificates.
They had to fund the war effort,
because people literally couldn't walk around with bags of silver. So they had the silver certificates that looked like, modern bills today, but they were exchanged on demand at any bank for actual silver.
Well, that's why they're called greenbacks. That's where that term got slapped on.
Let me jump in for a second, since we seem to be taking a turn toward the entire financial discussion, and we're also kind of talking and looking at being on the verge of war here, and we do not function any more independently of one another as far as economies in this world. It's a world. The markets are worldwide right now. So what happens here? I mean, I just don't understand. We've been devaluing our currency. China's been devaluing their yuan as well, and I don't really know what's going on with the ruble. But I mean, this is going to have ripple effect the whole world. Is it possible that we're going to see a worldwide depression, possibly? And the other thing too that I want to toss out here is, this idea, Range Riot is still going on about how we're just all fear mongering and this is all ridiculous. And to me, I don't understand how anybody can see that the path that we're going on is sustainable, and to even say that, things are going to go on like normal. It's like, wait a minute, we just had 2 assassination attempts on a presidential candidate in 8 weeks. We are so fucking far away from normal that it's ridiculous. So I'm not buying Range Riot Live over here. I'm just not buying it.
Don't feed the trolls. That's your best bet. Don't feed the trolls.
And Woz.
Ignore them.
BRICS is being backed by gold.
Okay,
but
it is
they
being
don't
backed.
have enough.
It is being backed by gold. Okay. Well, then you can see how people would believe the dollar and say, screw this. I'm going to go behind some sort of currency that's actually backed by something. That's real money.
But Gaddafi was trying that at one point, and you see where he ended up. The American government is never going to allow anyone to supplant the U.S. dollar.
So
well, of course not. Of course not. Yeah,
so
the deep state. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Watts.
No, the deep state wants to control everything. They're going to do everything possible. That's why they're trying to kill Trump. That's why they try to kill anybody who tries to do anything like this. They're going to come in and take them out.
That, and they're going to have to go to war with China, with fucking India, with Russia, because they're the ones that are going to be the main backers in BRICS.
Well, it's the biggest fear that the founders did have was centralized power. All right, F.A. Hayek called it centralized planning, and the people that have all the strings and like centralize all the power, which is what our legislators have done. They've allowed that to happen. This is the biggest fear of the founders, right? But does that mean, and going back to our prior conversation, does that mean that we give up on the American cause? No. This means that this is where the battle truly takes place. This is why history will remember the names of individuals who step forth, the martyrs, the people that will give their life for the cause of American freedom. This is where we are now. And it's a time in history that, is scary, but it's also an exciting time because we read about people's names where everything was on the line, and we remember their name because they did what was correct or what was right. And our job is to do what is right, preserve American freedom, but then also when power, like, and this is why George Washington, why he's such a figure in our history, is that when the pendulum shifts back, you were able to be humble enough, to be capable enough to cede back power to where it belongs, and that's the American people.
Well, I really appreciate that word. We have somebody else that's requested to speak. Angel's Army wants to say something. Why don't you step up to the plate?
Man Monkey is familiar with me. You probably remember me, man. But two things. Yeah, I heard it's sad that these people are doing this like deranged stuff. But in case if anyone hasn't heard, this is actually his third attempted assassination. If people are wondering, wait, how is it his third? If you are not following much, he was actually was gonna be killed by a would-be person that had his plan botched by Secret Service. You can look up the news of the videos of Arizona. It was when he came down to the southern border the day before he had spoke in Glendale, Arizona. Apparently, the Secret Service or people surrounding the border was able to catch the guy and botch his plans before it even took place. And Trump was even asked that, and he had no idea, but he did thank the Secret Service for their efforts of botching.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
100% correct. That did happen.
I think is that where he was being interviewed by a woman on TV,
Yes,
and
and
he
that's
kind
when
of
he
cut her.
found out.
He cut her short. He cut her short and said, "I think we need to get out of here," something like
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yep. They caught a guy with a gun that had plans on going. He never made it there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, yeah, I mean, definitely, I think we're in it. Like I said, we're in an unprecedented time, and we're, in a place in history where I don't really see us being able to continue to go on like this because it's unsustainable. And so there is definitely a correction coming. The question becomes, what is that correction going to look like, right? Is that correction going to be a big financial problem? Is it going to be the collapse of the dollar? Is it going to be a terrorist attack? Is it going to be World War III breaking out? I mean, at this point, I think that my gut feeling, the most likely scenario is that we're literally on the edge of World War III. And the concern that I have there is that there's no real models that show that even use of a tactical nuclear weapon results in the world not completely being obliterated or going into a nuclear winter. So I find that a little bit disturbing. But I mean, that's kind of what I see more likely than anything is that they're going to push us into this war, man, and they're going to think it's going to be all right.
I don't think World War III is going to happen. Not at least not now off of what's going on. I really don't. People that were alive during the Cold War, what did you see? Actions by the U.S. and talk from the Russians for the most part. And we are in another Cold War.
Yeah, but we didn't have NATO
Well,
using long-range missiles to
yeah,
fire into Russia then.
it's a hot war.
Yeah,
If
it's
that
a hot
happens,
war. There's
then
no Cold
Russia has
War.
to respond.
things are full scale. They've already like when you think
But
about
that's
World
actually
War.
that's actually not true though, because guess what? You can load into those missiles and fire them. GPS coordinates that I can literally get off of Google Earth.
But technically,
How would you say,
When they
Mayo?
say satellite
How
guided,
do you
they're
think World
literally
War One
talking about
started, Mayo?
GPS.
How do you think World War One started?
Oh, a political assassination
It-
of not. It was a ruler's
That's what the
nephew.
textbook tells you. You think that World War One started because of Archduke Ferdinand getting assassinated? Like that's what you think started World War One? It was already underway.
Just like Vietnam.
Flashpoints happen. It's just a matter of
Yeah,
time. It doesn't matter what the
and
context.
but
How do you
there's
think
a
World War
point where
Two
it's
started?
inevitable.
How do you think
But
World War
there's a
Two
point
started?
where it's inevitable afterwards.
Yeah, and this is where we are
And
now.
that's normally the starting where people put the starting point.
Well, we're in the same point now. Whatever the textbook bolded definition. Oh, this is for World War III. Like we already know it's already started, and whatever type of thing that makes it a little bit more inflamed, the kindling's already there. Doesn't matter where the flashpoint starts, whatever the context is, whoever gets assassinated, whatever happens, it's already in the works.
Do you think Russia's going to launch nuclear weapons on the continental United States?
I'm not going to speculate on that.
Because
What I'm
that's
saying,
literally the only power they have.
the
That's the only way they have to project power
based on the
outside of a
information
bordering
that
nation.
do you think you have a lot of information on the contemporary events that we are experiencing right now?
Well,
I have what probably most people have access to.
but you
But I asked you a specific question because that's World War III that he's talking about.
but World War III is happening right now.
World Wars start really slowly.
Yeah, it's not a one decisive event. Zelensky
Yeah.
just came over and asked permission if they can use U.S. made and NATO made missiles to launch deeper into Russia. What do you think happens if they launch one of them into Moscow? And then what do you think Russia's response is going to be? They're not going to drop a nuke right away. Now they might blow Kyiv off the map. Then what do you think our response, NATO's response, is going to be to that? And it's how it escalates. It keeps escalating until somebody feels backed into a corner.
Right. And the
And we've
other
got to
thing
remember,
the other thing you got to remember too though is the fact that you're dealing with people here. You're dealing with the ego of a man, and if you've spent any
Yes.
time listening to Putin, okay, he has a thing, okay, about going down in history, and he said things like, "What good is a world without Russia in it?" Okay? And so
And,
this
and that is
and he
that
said
that is why I
he's
take him for his word that he wants to rebuild the USSR.
what are you believe that he wants to like really wants to march across Europe?
He wants to rebuild the USSR. How did he retake Kazakhstan?
So okay, okay. We are like, I think, poking the bear. Okay. I think we have a fundamental disagreement. And I think the fact that NATO has become expansionist and we've been poking the bear. Okay.
I
Just
agree
Before
100%.
Crimea, NATO wasn't even an
Yes.
issue.
True slinger, slinging truth.
let them have Crimea. They speak Russian over there. They want to
Yep.
be part of Russia. Let
They
them
want to
fucking
be a part of
have
Russia.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. And
And
then
why
walk
should we give a
away.
shit over here in the U.S. anyway? Why should we care? Why should we send our sons and daughters over there
we
to
do.
Well,
die? Why do
you
we
look at
care?
And in
Operation
a world where
Barbarossa in
NATO doesn't
1940.
exist, that's an honest
Fuck NATO.
You look,
Just
you
like
look,
the UN.
and
Fuck NATO.
and that's fine. But
Yeah.
right now we are under the constraints of NATO and it exists.
we're
Now
not
I'm all
under
for
any
getting out of
constraints
it.
of NATO.
Well,
I am
first
also
of-
getting
first-
out of
we're our
NATO.
own sovereign nation. But
First of all,
in terms of Operation Barbarossa, which I think is the best example that we could look at right now, you had the Nazis invade the area of the Ukraine, and you had 50-50 sympathizers for the Nazis and 50-50 for the communists. And this is something that has always remained ever since. We think of like 1940s that long ago. It's not. And any
No.
person that's traveled overseas and looked at Europe, like these deep sentiments are very strong. Imagine if we all had grandparents and parents that died in a world war. Like, this is what Europe, and this is why George Washington's farewell address was it's so poignant, because it's so prophetic to now that Europe has these deep wars, deep resentments with other countries just in the geopolitics that we don't understand. And here we are saying, oh, yes, Ukraine is this, it's this, it's this. We need to protect democracy. And it's far removed from the reality of it because it's propagandized. And here we are just taking the bait as Americans and
No, did
sending
I ever
billions
say
of
it was a
dollars.
I never said it was a democracy.
I'm not putting words in your mouth. Sorry about that.
I mean,
didn't mean
Ukraine
to.
is not even a NATO country. Like, what the fuck do we care
Not
for?
yet. Not yet. Soon to be.
Well, and they shouldn't be, because that was there was an
That was a
agreement.
deal
wasn't
with
it?
Russia.
And I
Wasn't
agree.
it?
Yes.
No,
a
that
Minsk
was
agreement?
actually never promised. Look it up. That was never promised.
Okay,
The
but do
only
you
person
think,
I've
where it's
ever
leaning
heard
but do
say
you
that
think, but do you,
that it was
hang on,
said.
hang
But
on,
it's going that
hang
way.
on.
You just ran off 45 communist manifesto, and yet you're standing here going 10 toes down for fucking NATO. Get the
No,
fuck
I'm
out of
not.
here.
What I am saying is that was never promised to Russia, and that is a fact. The truth is what
No, you mean
matters.
Ukraine.
No,
Ukraine
an
will become part
expansion
of NATO.
east was never promised to Russia.
Yeah, and what
It
you talking
wasn't.
about from when they were in stopping at Germany? Yes, it was made a promise.
No, it was not. Look it up.
It was promised that
No, it
NATO
was not.
wouldn't be on Russia's border, and
No, it
they
was
want to
not.
put
Yeah,
Ukraine in NATO.
behind the
Okay,
Iron
okay,
Curtain.
stop
Well, there
first.
are a lot of promises.
Just hang on a second. But do you think it's a good fucking idea?
No.
Do you think it's a good fucking idea that we be right on the border with Russia, that NATO be right on
Did
the
you
border
hear me just say no?
Okay, then what the fuck are we arguing about? We should let them fucking have.
Because I'm interested in the truth, and I thought you were too, that promise was never made to Russia. That is a falsehood.
Well, I mean, I'd like to see receipts on that.
Well, even
No,
if it was
made it was made to Gorbachev from my understanding, but I guess that we have to go back into that because you're bringing up the point and calling it, which is good. But pretty sure that Gorbachev was given promises, especially with regard to some of the SALT treaties and the nuclear arms, reductions. Pretty sure a lot of that was related to that, but obviously we've got to revive it. Don't got that on the tip of the mindset, but all those treaties were really important if anyone wants to do some Googling.
But yeah, I think NATO's got to be disbanded altogether. They just got to get rid of it. We are NATO basically. Without us, there's no NATO.
Well,
I agree.
That goes into the whole World War II starting and stuff like that too, though, because NATO and United Nations was League of Nations, Woodrow Wilson, all this stuff comes about from that World War One, which World War One started from the Crimean War. All that stuff is connected in these European conflicts that George Washington in his farewell address said that we shouldn't get involved in, and now here we are. So we think about all these problems that we have, and the founders did foresee this, right? So when we look at history, it's really important. And then we have to be informed by it. And then we also have to have a level head as to, okay, what's the direction now?
Right, and somebody was mentioning that we're not at war right now. We are at war. We are funding all these wars. We are dictating to Ukraine what to do. The West is actually dictating. Do you remember when Ukraine wanted to reach a peace deal with Russia, and the West told them, no, you cannot do it? Now, who the hell are we to tell other countries they can't have a peace deal between themselves? You don't think that's messed up?
Sadly, and I've got some good buddies that fought in Iraq, and that war and how it began and everything that came about from that. And a lot of what we hear as Americans is from our government, and it's very much ciphered from our government. And we just, as Americans, have to realize that, okay, sometimes we have to relook at our approach to policy and have that just, I guess, approach to, like, we're not meant to establish democracies in cultures where it's not going to be accepted. Like, that is just a staple that we have to put in the forefront of our minds.
Let me
No,
interrupt.
it's
I
not.
Let me
100%
interrupt.
agree.
Let me
A
interrupt.
lot of cultures can't handle democracy.
Yeah.
That's obvious.
Let
Okay,
me
I want to.
Yeah, hang on 1 second. I just wanted to let everybody know and just hold that thought. We got 2,100 views on X, and I'm starting to get annoyed. We got a guy over here, Range Riot Live. It's starting
Don't
to really.
feed the trolls, man.
Nah, well, here's what I'm saying. I'm just going to tell him right now that if he's got the balls, get behind the microphone, get into the damn spaces. Okay, Rob, please post the link again to the damn spaces. Get in here and teach us all a lesson. Otherwise, just shut the hell up and leave. Because really, if you don't want to be in an echo chamber and you think that this is pointless, then I really don't understand what the hell you're doing in here. So there you go. Put up or shut the fuck up and get out of here. So please, everyone, continue.
Okay, hold on.
How can I give? How can I post a link?
Mail.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. How can I
Excuse
post a
me?
link?
I'll be right back.
How can I post a link to Mikhail Gorbachev saying that NATO expansion was not even discussed?
Then take a look at the Warsaw Pact.
Even after he said, even after the Warsaw Pact.
As far as I'm
presented in
concerned, as far as I'm concerned, that's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Is NATO expansion a good thing? Yes or no?
No.
There we go. Right there's your answer.
The fact that we're breaking some promise does matter. The
What-
falsehood
what-
that we broke some promise.
I didn't make any promises. Neither did you. None of us were alive at the time, probably.
No, I was.
You were
I
born
was
before
actually stationed in Germany at the time.
in 1945.
No, sir. When the Soviet Union fell.
Oh, you're talking 89. Okay. I thought you were
Yes.
talking about World War II.
No, I'm talking about the talks about NATO expanding east that never
Okay.
happened with
Right.
Gorbachev.
Well, again, as far as I'm concerned, that doesn't matter. NATO should not even exist. We have to get rid of the damn thing altogether. Pull out, it'll collapse, and leave it
And
behind.
I wholly agree with you.
So then we
But
can get
the
rid of the.
truth matters.
Okay, fine. I'll
And
even
that
admit
is a falsehood that was presented here.
Fine, it's a falsehood. But either way, it's wrong. We should not be expanding NATO. It doesn't matter whether there's a promise made or not.
We should have left NATO after 91.
NATO should have disbanded when the Soviet Union fell because it was designed specifically to protect against the Soviet Union. So it became invalid that day.
Exactly.
So they're saying it was an oral agreement that we violated. It was never in writing. They're saying it was oral agreement that we gave Gorbachev that was violated, and it was widely known throughout the U.S. government and through NATO.
Would you like to see a link to the interview where Gorbachev answers this himself?
Again,
I would love to see it.
It's Russia and beyond. It's a Russian site.
Hang on. It's at this point, it's immaterial. The question becomes, and I think what we're talking about, right, is realistically, and where this all started was, first of all, politics regarding in our country, what's happening immediately and our immediate futures. So I kind of want to bring it back to that of what, we got people out here right now. We got a circle jerk of angry. It's like, it's like, I don't understand why people think we're angry when we're just having a conversation about things that affect all of us and are going to affect all of us. And I think we all are trying to wrap our minds around it, for nothing else, trying to grapple with. I think that's why we have so many people watching and listening, because, hey, it's scary stuff. It's difficult stuff. And we need to understand history to be able to understand what's going on here. We need to understand it from a spiritual perspective. There's a whole lot of reasons that we're doing this and a whole lot of perspectives that are important. And so anybody that's not grown up enough to handle a conversation like this and think we're just, ripping on each other, no, this is called a healthy discussion, right? I don't think there's been any name calling, and I don't think anybody's really been rude to each other. I think we've been all respectful. But what I do want to, bring it back to, I think, is to say, what can we do, right? Because that's hard, because now we're talking about the fact that the world might melt and go sideways, right? So what the hell is it that we can do on a daily basis that is going to matter, make a difference? Is there anything? Is there nothing we can do? Are we just to sit here, and see, or are we just going to, sit here in a philosophical echo chamber, as someone said, right? Bouncing this stuff off, but nothing's ever going to get solved. Or are we actually solving things here? I don't know. What say you?
Well,
I think just more people are a little bit more passionate than others. I don't think anybody's angry in the conversation, but you do make a good, valid point, Truth. Uh, how do we How do we solve this problem?
run for local government is a start.
Well, I personally think that part of the we got to figure out, first of all, find out exactly what the problem is and agree on what the problem is. Is the problem government, or is the problem the people behind government who are not actually in government that are calling the shots? Is that happening? And if that is happening, does it matter really who we put in government if government doesn't really matter? Right now, we don't have a president, and the country appears to be working no different than when we had the president. Would you agree with that?
Just like when we have
was.
government shutdowns of non-essential workers,
Yeah.
most things
Right.
go on unabated.
So if the
It has
problem is
very,
not if the
very
if the
little effect on the people.
So if the problem is not necessarily government per se, but the people who are controlling the government from behind the scenes, then how are we going to change things by voting certain people in if they're not going to make any difference?
By
If that's
starting with your local government and not being controlled by those people. Did you guys ever watch the Netflix show about politics in Washington with Kevin Spacey?
yeah, the shades of gray thing you're talking about, that
No,
one.
no. It was about, he was a congressman trying to be president.
I know what you're trying to say about local government and all politics should be local, but unfortunately, that's not the country we live in. We have a federal government that rules over all of us with an iron fist. How do we change that? Changing your local government is not going to change that.
I would say
I
the
think
people in
I
rural
think
Maine need to actually vote. Number
I
one.
think we need to elect people that are consistent in their messaging and that we can trust, that really believe that we need to shrink the size of the federal government, get it somewhat closer to what it was intended to be. Until that happens, I don't think there's any way to control it.
Well, if you
So
get rid of the organizations within the government that are not elected officials that are making policy, that would be a good start.
Yeah, unelected
so
bureaucrats that have most control, have more control than the elected people.
well
Right?
that's what Reagan railed against. That's why he was elected, monumentally. He
And
had
why he
his
was
battle
shot.
against Ford, why he was shot, sure, agreed. Part of this though is also where Americans are imbued with this understanding that they are sovereign, which I respect, and I'm in elected office, and I the thing that I put at the forefront of my mind always, and I always contend, is that government is designed to be limited, and the less government in people's lives, the better. And so the United States has always had that. Americans have always understood that. They know that, and we're barely getting a glimpse. The COVID and the lockdowns, that was immense tyranny in a lot of states, especially here in Michigan. And when we saw that, we sensed it, and now these individuals that are tyrannical want to continue that because politicians, and I will be the first to testify on this behalf, they want to put out press releases saying, I did this, I fixed this, and their little tyrannical minds are all about how they exalt themselves. And this is something that the founders, like I mentioned before, they designed to put all these people in the same room to limit themselves, limit their egos, to have them battle with each other. And most Americans have never even cared to pay attention to these people who think that they're so big in their little bubble of their state capital or in DC. And now people are starting to wake up, look at these folks, and realize how incompetent and how just maniacal and devious they are. And that scrutiny has to increase, because that's the only thing that is going to change the day is when the people wake up.
Our
Sharper,
problem is we've
why
lost the
would
kids.
Victoria Nuland have so much power in the government? And she's not even elected. Why? We need to get rid of
No.
people like that.
Yeah, why does Nancy Pelosi make policy for the state of Maine?
Why does Benjamin Netanyahu such a have a huge influence? Why does he have a better security detail when he comes to the United States than our own president and Donald Trump has? How
Because
does
the
that
people
happen?
thus far have allowed it, and until they, like we in these conversations, until the scrutiny comes in from the sovereign, the individuals, the people of the United States, it will be allowed until it gets called down. And this is the thing that there's power in numbers, right? This is where our democratic republic, our constitutional republic, however we define that, when enough people begin turning out these folks, these deep state folks, these people that are establishment, and especially in the Republican Party, when they start getting turned out. I don't know if you know who Fred Upton is. He was my congressman, and he didn't run for re-election after 34 years. He was one of the people that voted to impeach Trump. Same thing with Peter Meyer. These guys didn't get reelected, right? So the turning point is happening, and it becomes enough individuals stepping up, being active and engaged, and seizing the thing that they have, which is sovereignty as citizens in this great country. And that is what is going to carry the day.
You know, Sharper, I agree with you. We have our sovereignty, and I do agree that Americans are starting to wake up, or more Americans are starting to wake up, I should say, because many of us have woken up a long time ago. But would you say that we're still way too complacent?
Yeah, we're definitely little Simbas, right? Lion King, that's the best way I think I could describe it, is that, Simba he grew up among what, Timon and Pumbaa or whatever those little animals were. He didn't know he was a lion, right?
Right.
This is exactly what American citizenship is.
That,
Is people don't understand what they have.
yeah,
I go back
I,
to my
I,
original point. We have lost the children. The greatest thing they did was took over the education system. You have generations now that have learned nothing about our history, our
This
founding
evening, my
fathers, our
friend,
principles.
I'll push back a little bit. This evening, I was in a huge group of 75 homeschoolers at a church tonight. And
Yeah, but
I
that's
will
only
say that,
Well, that's the point I was getting ready to make.
yeah,
I think for us to get enough like-minded people together, we need people more like and no matter what you think about them personally or which way they lean or not, but people like Charlie Kirk, Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, that goes to these schools and are pushing back on some of these ideologies and actually turning some young minds to our side a little earlier than waiting for them to get out of school, go into their real world and take years to figure out that shit just isn't right, and then to come to terms on their own. We need to get these kids thinking about these things much earlier. We've lost that battle.
but and just to share too is like, what made you think about things? Probably hardships, right?
Exactly.
And this is
No one
something
in
that's on
school
the
was pushing
forefront.
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
but wait a minute. Here's the problem. In order to be able to run for a congressional office, you need money because of the way
yeah,
the
but to run
system
for
is
your
set
local
up.
school board to control your
I
school,
know, but
you need a marker and
we
poster
are
paper.
under the foot of the federal government. It is rogue,
Yes, and how
dude.
do you wind up under that foot? They buy you off with money.
Oh, there's more than that, okay? We don't elect the chief of police, dude. Okay, they throw your ass in
Oh, he's a
jail. They
political
jack you up
appointee.
on some. What I'm saying is that there's a bunch of ways that the federal government can make your ass and my ass real miserable real fast.
Yes, and which one can you affect the easiest? It's to run for local government.
Guys, if you're not familiar with Bonds for the Wind, that's BondsForTheWin.com. You should familiarize with that. Everybody needs to understand that your local school boards, each individual board member must carry a surety bond. Bonds for the Win shows you exactly how to go after that surety bond. And I can tell you right now, if you utilize that 3-step process, all it takes is 2 people. 3-step process. If you use it, you'll crumble that board. I did it. I removed 3/4 of my school board using that exact same process.
And I just wanted to,
I also ran for the state legislature in here in Michigan and just knocked on 12,000 doors. I was a teacher. I was a conservative civics teacher in my local public school, and the best way to teach civics is to live it. And yeah, knocked on 12,000 doors. I raised only $16,000 and won against 5 other people. So, a lot of that comes down to how much you really want to influence something, and also how much you want to meet people, and then spread a message that's meaningful.
Cost me $200.
and I just want to touch real fast. I think Mayo was talking about the federal government with money controls things, and he is right. The redistribution of income is a big problem in this country. Federal income tax, taking your money from the people of the individual states and giving it back to you if your state plays nice and does what the federal government wants.
True.
Yep.
That's how things work, and that's a big problem.
And it's a problem because, and this is what we see in budgets in the state legislature, is that, oh, well, you'll lose all this federal funding because they do this matching if the state, pitches in, especially with, medical and school funding, is that, oh, if you guys contribute this much, you'll get this much from the feds, like 3-1. It's crazy. And then they say if you vote against that, you're cutting budgets, obviously, by a lot. So, yeah, absolutely on point, Wasp. But you also need people that are able to stand up and stand out against those things in budgets in the state legislatures. And if that doesn't happen, right, that takes a lot of courage, because, man, the mailers that they send out against me, the things that people attack you on, it's intense. And these people that are compromised or they're worried about their reelection, there are a lot of them. And I understand and I sympathize with them. I don't like it, but I understand their plight.
Hold on. I think the host is trying to talk, but might be having mic problems. Truth?
Actually, I wanted to ask our gracious host how he's holding up, because it's already midnight and he's got a morning again show coming up before he knows it.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, no mic problems. I was just kind of deferring a little bit a couple of times and just letting the conversation flow. I thought I had something to say, and then I decided I didn't. So, it's just growth on my part, I guess.
Well, to soften it up, then Truth, what's a wartime preacher? I like that in your bio. Can you, I guess, maybe reset the space? Give us a lowdown on what a wartime preacher is, especially this day and age. We need more of them.
Well, pretty much the lowdown on that. My background is 20 years ago, I was saved, and in a pretty radical way. And I found myself in the evangelical church, and I went through kind of a crucible. I went to seminary at Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, and I had like 5 guys busting my balls while I was preaching all the time, and it was at a time where I suspected that what I felt all this cultural stuff going on. I knew it was coming. And, I started getting rumblings of it at school, in my daughter's middle school, assignments that she was getting and stuff. But I just, I tried to talk about politics and stuff, and it didn't go over very well in the church. And for a number of reasons, the church blew apart. And
Is that the church that Adrian Rogers was involved in?
No. I went to a little Reformed Baptist church in.
But isn't that part of the Southern Baptist Union, though?
The particular church that I was with was not part of the Southern Baptist Convention. The original church, my first church that I was in, was the First Baptist Church in Hohenwald, and they were part of this SBC. And as a matter of fact, I went to the SBC meeting. It was during I went there, and I went to seminary during the conservative resurgence in the Southern Baptist Convention. Now it's all gone to hell right now. It's all going woke, just like all the other denominations, pretty much. So, but anyway, I lost both my kids to the culture wars. Both my daughters are prodigal. They're, one of them changed her pronouns. This was after going to Union University, which was a Christian conservative university, and moved out to Seattle, I think, and changed her pronouns and all that shit. And the other one won't talk to me either. They're both estranged because of, my psychotic ex-wife, who's just happens to be liberal as well. They're all liberal. But anyway, I spun off out here into the woods and started to go mad. I mean, it was sort of a wilderness experience, and tried to start a church when I was out here, tried to do some local stuff, tried to hook my train to other people. But, I went through 2020 and I watched, the country melt, and I started to really, really, really get burdened about what the hell was going on. And so eventually what happened is I started this 2 years ago because I burned up every single person in my life that I would try to talk to about what the hell was going on. And I was just going absolutely batshit crazy, right? So war, that's a long answer to what the hell a wartime preacher is. I think that evangelical Christianity has been spending a whole lot of time sorting the silverware in the drawer while the whole damn house is on fire. Okay, I mean, there's been a home invasion essentially, and we keep giving up as conservatives and Christians. Oh well, it's okay if you do this, and you can be in the kitchen, and you can be sooner or later you're out on the front porch. The locks are all changed, and it's because the preachers won't engage in politics, or the wokeness has been infiltrated into the church. It's become the church at Laodicea. I think for all intents and purposes, it's irrelevant. There's like a handful of churches that defied the lockdown orders, like against the COVID-19 stuff. I mean, it's pretty much just gone cold. And so I came out here and, I have no patience for anybody that gives me any crap, okay, about my swearing, right, or being nice, right? Christians aren't supposed to be nice, right? There's nowhere in the Bible, you can't find it for me, right? That's some bullshit that people have imposed upon us, right? And the same thing with cursing, right? Sometimes there are people that need to hear that language, and there just are, okay? And I'm willing to meet people there. It's where I came from, right? Then there are certain times where it's appropriate and certain times where it's not. But I'm not afraid to engage. I'm not afraid to be confrontational. I'm not afraid to throw off all constraints on language and use biblical language and say things like sin, okay, and that you need to repent and that you're going to burn in hell, okay? I mean, we need to say these things to people, because if we really believe that people are going to hell, then how dare I not be preaching to them at the top of my lungs and doing everything I can to save people from going there. So it's brave, bold, and I think that on top of that is I feel called like the valley of the dry bones in the Old Testament, that I feel very much called like the prophet to prophesy over the dry bones and raise an army of Christians that are going to take all this shit on, and that are unafraid to pay consequences, personal price, even if that means sitting in jail. Right. So there you go. That's in a nutshell what a wartime preacher is. That's me.
I just want to say really quick, Tim, you shouldn't fucking swear. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to say that.
Fuck you.
Well, fuck me, and I'm hit then.
No fucking swearing.
As one who it will posit the sharper word, there are some points in the word on obscenity and things like that. But hey, man,
listen,
I like the discourse, and I'm grateful for this and the spaces you put on.
We can have a conversation about that, okay, over saltiness and whether or not, okay, fresh water and salt water should pour forth from the same place, okay, and things of that nature, right? So
hey, man, if you're steep in the word, it resonates, and that's all that I know.
Right.
I'm not here to point too much out. I'm not going to do that.
Right.
I appreciate the
Right.
opportunity
I
to talk about things that matter the most in
yeah.
our country.
Yeah, and I've been really, I swear to God, I have been trying honestly to use my words more, like really, because I did have a bit of a level up, okay, as far as my faith is concerned last week when I sort of made a total ass out of myself in a spaces because I was like, was drinking and I shouldn't have been doing that, and so I was like pretty raw. And so I've actually been quite restrained, I think, for tonight. And usually I try and keep the salt to a minimum these days.
So about 3 days ago, I went and there was a forum at the LGBTQ plus forum that in my area that the Democrat was there. I'm the Republican, and no Republicans ever go to this event. And one of the things that I've been most vocal against is the gender theory and a lot of the stuff that is happening in our schools. I've been vetting a lot of the curriculums here in Michigan on teaching kids that they can change their sex, and we've got bills even that are mimicking some of the very leftist states. Michigan is now at the forefront of being a leftist state of changing the driver's license to on their sex to be able to change it whenever they want or make it an X. And so I went to this forum and pretty much put out forthrightly that biologically no one can change their sex. You're creating pharmaceutical patients for life, especially with children, and you can't block the puberty of a child. Like, no one should be grateful for the sake that they were able to go through puberty. um you should not have to be grateful that you're able to go through puberty. And now we're in this phase, and this group had an uproar, right? But at the end of it, they realized that I wasn't there to antagonize them or entice them, because I think a lot of us on the right have been doing that, and it isn't very helpful, right? When you think about when you know you inflame someone, the proverb says that a gentle word does much. It
Yeah,
diffuses.
it turns away wrath, right? Exactly.
Yeah, and we need more of that in our political discourse, because when you stand on truth as well, you don't have to be insecure in any capacity. And I was sitting there with like 90 people in a room, and sharing this, like, the truth, what is true. And we have to be bold in that, but then also confident by not having to entice others. And that's the only thing that I say about any coarseness or stuff like that.
Right.
Because
And I, and here's the other thing, okay? I mean, there's an issue here with weaker brothers, okay? There's things that I might say amongst us here in this spaces that I would not say, for example, in a confrontation with someone where I'm trying to really, it's just a different space, it's a different time, and so there are times when things are appropriate, and there are times when they're not, and that's, I guess,
absolutely
all my
agreed,
the point that I
for
was
sure.
making.
And by no
But
means was that any type of direction toward you. I'm just saying that in this time that is now, even with our conversation about those predecessors that we've had that have preserved our blessings of freedom that we were able to enjoy, here we are now, and we must preserve the goodness of our nation. And I think a lot of the way that we talk is a big part of that, especially when we
It
go into the
it
lion's den.
it is, and
Oh,
I would agree, but I want to make just one last thing, okay? When I steep myself in scripture so much, okay, just like Charles Spurgeon, okay, I start to sound like
Give it some Billy Sunday zest. I like that.
I mean, what happens is literally I start to speak biblically, like, all the time, right? But the problem with that is that that's not always relatable to everyone. That's not always that what happens is that sometimes is that speak is not understandable to everyone. People
no,
don't
it comes
understand.
across as preachy.
It does, right? And like I start talking about being washed in the blood of the lamb, and people are like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And so I guess what I'm saying is that is that there is an element of being all things to all people here that I wrestle with, right?
Hey man,
With
I grew up playing hockey in the Upper
Why?
Peninsula. Like you could see the saltiest things in those locker rooms, right? The thing is that the tone is set by those who set the tone, and that's all that I think the word really resonates when you read into those points is that the person that's there when there's light, there's no darkness where there's light, and we all can be that way. And part of the points, especially in James when it talks about the tongue being the rudder of the ship, that is a pretty compelling point, to seek into. And maybe we'll have a space on that down the road, because I appreciate this again where we can have this type of discourse for sure.
well, I'll tell you,
Waz, I see your hand raised.
Well, I'm not sure the guys are done talking. I can wait.
all I wanted to say was, bridling the tongue, and just to touch on what I talked about last week, the reason that I'm never going to touch another drop of alcohol again is that it looses my tongue in a real bad way. And so, yeah, being in control of what it is that comes out of our mouths and thinking before we speak and listening a whole hell of a lot more, those are all things I continue to work on a daily basis, right?
Me too, my friend. Me too.
Go ahead, Waz.
Okay. No, I was going to talk about this since you just mentioned it now. I've also had my bouts with alcohol too. You're not alone on this, my friend. I know you know that. Um, it does affect everybody differently. See, my girlfriend, if we happen to drink, she gets very talkative and becomes a totally different person, and sometimes says stuff she shouldn't be saying, and gets kind of angry and emotional and that. And I'm more of like a happy drunk. I get drunk and I'm just kind of like, having a good time or whatever. So it affects everybody differently. But obviously, alcoholism can be a problem. But I went through that myself in a big way, especially when I got divorced. I mean, every single night I would go home after work, get a 6-pack of beer. On the weekend, when I'd have Friday off until Monday morning off from work, I'd get a case of beer. And I basically drink all that. And if that ran out, I go back out on Sunday and get more. I mean, I used to drink so much. You have no idea. And I still drink now and then. But luckily, see, alcohol is weird in that I've been able to walk away from it. I can just go without it for years. Now, smoking, I smoke like you do, Tim. And that's a different story. I've never tried quitting smoking, but I imagine that would be the hardest thing to quit. Smoking cigarettes. I mean, that would have to be a total bitch. But some people walk away from that too. So maybe it's mind over matter. I don't know. But anyway, what I wanted to talk to, both you guys said a few different things recently. Actually, I was thinking about the sharper word. Now, he had mentioned Fred Epton earlier, who served 34 years in Congress, if I remember correctly. Is that what you said? Are you in favor of term limits?
I've always signed those pledges. Yeah.
Hell
Okay.
yes.
Now, let me ask you
But
this.
that takes a constitutional amendment, but yes.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, so to speak, and I have no idea how long you've been in office, and you don't have to tell me. Will you?
6 years.
Okay. Well, at some point, will you not run for office again, saying, I've served my term, it's time for me to return to public, and let somebody else take over?
There are term limits for 12 years max that got extended. It was 14 years originally, but in Michigan they changed. I think you said you lived in Michigan, eh, Was?
Yeah, I'm in the Metro Detroit area.
Yeah, so yeah, 12 years max in the House.
Okay. So you have to get out after 12 years. But then again, you could run for, say, the Senate, couldn't you?
No, the way that it was written, which I respected, because the institution of the House, especially under the COVID lockdowns, we had a lot of people that they get into the House and then they pretty much use that position to try to run for other spots. So it dismantled the foundation of the institution, in my opinion, because you got these people that are getting into the speakership, one term, their third term, and then they're ousted. And that's why the governor rolled us so much under the COVID lockdown. So it's good for the institution of the House to have a max of 12 years in the House rather than people running for the Senate and going somewhere else.
Okay. No, that's great. I mean, you wouldn't originally, of course, the founders didn't think we needed term limits. That they thought the men who ran for Congress would be, man enough to step down after a certain period of time. But of course, it didn't work out that way.
Well,
Did it?
that was in the executive kind of with how Washington set that precedent, right? But in terms of the stability of the Senate and the House, it was very, very small with the 13 states and how things got off the ground. And then also, congressmen only had 40,000 constituents during that time, right? Now they have
Right.
800,000 constituents. So,
Yeah, I remember somebody did the math on that a while back, and I remember correctly, if they did it the same way now, you'd have like what, a couple thousand at least representatives now in the House, or maybe
Yes.
more than that.
Yep.
FJ Cruiser, I seen your hand up. Did you want to speak?
Today, the agency will now have to answer even more questions.
FJ Cruiser. Larry, can you turn your mic off, please?
Thank you.
FJ Cruiser. Did you want
Can
to
you
speak?
hear me? I'm sorry. I clicked it by mistake. I don't know exactly what the topic is right at the moment, so I withdraw for right now.
Chuck, go ahead, buddy.
All right, fellas, my phone is dying. I'm on my phone. I just want to say this is a great little topic tonight. I have never participated in one of these ever yet, and I actually follow Waz, and I just saw a little thing popped up said he was in a space, so I jumped in, and it was right up my alley. So just want to say good talk with you guys. My phone's about to die here in a minute. I'm gonna be cutting out. Just want to let you guys know that.
The great and powerful Waz. Yes.
Yeah, thanks for coming out, Chuck, and thanks again, Tim, for hosting these. Your spaces are really taking off, man, which is really good. Got a lot of people coming and showing up for these things. Sunday nights, if anybody hasn't figured out, I as you guys know, I do shout outs and stuff like this, and I figured out over time what are the best days and times to do things. Sunday night is prime time for anything like this or going live because everybody and their grandma, for some reason, is on X on Sunday night from like, say, 8 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time. That's prime time, man.
Yeah, it really seems to have done well tonight, especially it picked up like in the later hours, like by 10:30. Yeah, it started to kind of get with the program there. So it's been really enjoyable, man. Let's give it till 12:30. So we got about like 9 minutes. Let's wrap this thing up and then that'll give me enough sleep before my show tomorrow morning, right?
Tim, can I say one thing to you though?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've got a friend in the state who's really high up in AA. If you ever need to go to a meeting,
Oh, dude,
contact
man,
me.
I
I get you hooked up.
yeah, I
Quick.
appreciate that, man. I spent a long time in AA, and
Yeah.
I got the big book sitting right over there, man, on the other side of the monitor, man. My original one from the first time I went treatment when I was I don't know what 17 years old, I think. So yeah, man, I appreciate it. I'm never gonna probably go to an AA meeting, but thanks, I appreciate that.
That's
Larry?
fine. I understand.
Larry, you got.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say something about, we were just talking about term limits a few minutes ago, but you got to remember that our founders, their life expectancy was not nearly as long as ours. So term limits definitely is something that needs to be considered here.
Well, the sage of the convention, if you remember, Benjamin Franklin, he was, I think he was in his 70s when he was at the Philadelphia convention. And so, thinking about that, maybe it's a good point, but Benji, he was pretty much a staple, called him the old sage. I think around 70, something like that.
Larry?
Yeah, but he was the only one that actually lived out a long age.
Yeah, well, he
But they
also was
also
one of the
most of
greatest
they
statesmen
spent
that
most
was never a statesman, right? So,
yeah. And they also spent most of their time in their home districts, not in Washington D.C.
I don't know.
Which
You
is a
look, you look at some of the folks, like there was a lot of vitriol to some of these people, like John from Roanoke, like these guys who went out there and pointed out how these folks lived according to especially Garfield, like I mentioned before. He kind of ushered in this big money mentality of people, adhering to Rockefellers and the big oil and these big interests in the railroads. Like, this is something that isn't necessarily new, and we've got a waypoint in history to read on how we've gotten to this point. And yeah, I know we've only got like 6 more minutes, but that's something that I think we have to be informed on to understand how we got to where we are. Because I will contend that people that go to these state legislatures or to DC, they are captured quickly because they aren't pure in heart. They aren't standing on the rock, which, in a Christian profession is the word of the Lord. They have sin, and they are compromised very quickly. I have a Speaker of the House that when I first got elected, who was completely compromised and wouldn't push back on my governor's executive orders that were over the top here in Michigan, because he was going to strip clubs and he was having sex with other women outside of his wife in the Capitol. And so Christians in particular are very much compromised in politics, and it's just outlandish. It's crazy.
There's $100
What,
million.
wasn't Garfield one of the original people at the Jekyll Island?
I don't think so. That's not out. Not at all. I don't think he got assassinated, but he also was huge in terms of the in the Congress, but Civil War veteran. But no, I don't. That's not to my knowledge. No, with James Ann Garfield.
Now, would you go for abolishing the 17th Amendment?
So that'd be
one
changing
way
up the Senate in terms of how they're elected. That was how it was, and I would probably say that's probably better. But if you look at how captured our state legislatures are, I don't think it would make much of a difference. So the way it is now is probably better, because our state legislatures are so captured by the lobby corps. Like, they just want it's stepping stones to be, oh, I want to go to DC currently.
Waz, did you want to speak?
Yeah, something just came to mind when Sharper Word mentioned, and actually I think Mayo might have mentioned Jekyll Island. The Federal Reserve Act, Judge Edgar Napolitano, who I used to like quite a bit, and he talks about how the Federal Reserve Act and most of these bills that pass through Congress have near the bottom of the bill a clause where Congress can repeal, basically rescind the act at any time. Now, I want to know if Sharper Word might, maybe if he knows about this. Now, since a law, to become law, it has to pass Congress, and then the president has to approve of it, right? To repeal a law, would the same thing have to go into effect? Would Congress have to repeal it, and the president have to approve of the repeal? Or could Congress just repeal it and it's gone?
Well, yeah, for lawmaking, by all means, that it would be how the process is. Yeah. I'm on the state level, but the states also can, and this is where we have a lot of conversation around, changing the Constitution and opening up convention of states, because we want a balanced budget and we want a handful of other things, right? And term limits. So that's something that I'd voted for in the past, but it didn't get moxie because there are a lot of states that are worried about, a runaway convention and things like this if we change the Constitution. But this is where it's set in stone, and this is where we have a lot of opportunity, going back to even some of our dismay and our kind of doom and gloom about our country, because we have this opportunity to kind of seize the day. But then also the fact that even if Kamala Harris is elected, that our Constitution is pretty solid in a lot of ways to defend against some of the wiles of ideology that she has in mind.
I have a question for you, Sharp. What was this deal with Whitmer putting in this new law about the elections? Was it to stop something like 2020 again?
Which one? There were a lot of so what we have here in Michigan, which is really bad, are these referendums, and so people get ballot signatures, and they've changed our Constitution and election law several times. 2018, there were some really bad ones of like absentee voting.
This one was recent. like a
Yeah,
month
you know,
ago.
yeah, there's a lot of them that were put into place, but which one are you referring to then? Because
Something about
we got destroyed in 2018, and then
something
2022 there were these ballot referendums that
something to the
established the
effect that
Constitution.
if you talk about the election being stolen,
No, that's Jocelyn Benson. Yeah, so she's at the forefront of a lot of, and this is where it's really key. And we've got the separation of powers, right? We've got the judicial branches that are interpreting law. And so I was a part of the Texas lawsuit, which was questioning the 2020 election here in Michigan because we sent out all these ballot applications using COVID funds to people that didn't request them. And so a lot of people call me some sort of traitor to democracy and stuff like that, what have you. But the onus is on the, on the um, on the courts take. So the Texas lawsuit made these proposals, and there was not enough. The U.S. Supreme Court declined our case. So here we are, and they're using all this momentum to use lawfare and to go outside of their boundaries as executive offices, and it's been ridiculous. And the court takes so much time, and it takes
Exactly.
so much money to bring up these lawsuits that we're so behind the eight ball. And I'm on all these lawsuits, but we have to like really fundraise to get the money to pay these lawyers to actually have competency in courts of law. And it's been brutal here in Michigan because our
Yeah.
executive offices with Whitmer and Benson and Dana Nessel have been just running the show far outside of their restraints, but it's the courts that have to keep them in line. And we don't have enough money or moxie to be able to keep them in check. And it's been rough.
okay, we're going to end this. Waz, I see your hand up. I'm going to hand the floor over to you and then the host so we can end this.
No, I was just going to say, Tim, if he's ready to wrap it up, 'cause I know he's got to get up early.
Yeah, well, pretty much I really enjoyed the heck out of that, guys. It was a little bit in the beginning, it was a little bit weak. We only had a few people in here. It was still really productive and I enjoyed it. But then, man, yeah, it was crazy. It took off and we had a whole lot of people. And I think that people are getting smarter, people are getting educated. I know I got an education tonight, and I fancy myself that like I know, a few things, but I tell you, I learned a lot of stuff tonight. And so I really appreciate everybody that brought content tonight, and Mayo for bringing the 45 points on communism, and and Sharp, you were fantastic here tonight. Really love that voice, man. And Waz, really appreciate your perspective and your skepticism of government, man. And of course, your promotion. And Rob has been just a fantastic co host tonight. So we want to definitely give him a round of applause and thanks. He made this place run very smoothly tonight. And so, yeah, I really, really did enjoy it. Tomorrow morning, we'll be on Mama and Me from 8 to 10 in the morning. It's morning again. We do that every day. And of course, we go live if, anything's going on. You want to make sure that you follow everybody when we shut this room down. All the speakers have been fantastic and they all deserve a follow. So you want to make sure to follow everybody on that list when you get out of the spaces. And continue to follow us, over at the Truth Slinger Project, because we continue to grow, and I think we're making a difference, and I really do think we're growing thanks to you, Waz, in great part. So we really appreciate you. Does anybody have any last words before we wrap this up?
Good hanging out with you
That
guys.
I just want to say, if anybody hasn't checked out Tim's morning show, do check it out. Him and his wife Jen, they're wonderful. They got a great show going, and it's definitely much better than your ABC morning shows and that. It's a really good show, and it's taking off. So check it out. It's called This Morning Again, 8 o'clock every morning, Monday through Friday. If you haven't checked it out, give it a view.
I want to say thank you, everybody. You, Mayo, thank you for pushing back. To the rest of the speakers, you guys are awesome. And Waz, why aren't you following me anymore?
Oh, and hey, I want to shout out, thank you very much to everyone in the chat. And Rob, thanks for keeping an eye on the chat. It was all right tonight. It was a little bit spicy, got a little bit out of hand once or twice, but overall it was good. It was a good conversation, and they added something too. So, and we always want to make sure next time if you don't realize we do drop that link and you want to come in and say a few words, you got to just jump into the spaces with us and have a word. So, all
No, I just
right,
want to say really
guys.
fast to the Goonie Bin, that was not intentional. Occasionally, and you may have run across this too, occasionally you unfollow somebody inadvertently when you're in somebody's profile checking them out, and you hit that button without even realizing it, so that must be what happened. But I'm following you again, so.
Thank you, bud. Appreciate you.
All right. Well,
Hey, how about a pledge of allegiance?
sure, man. You want to lead it?
I pledge allegiance to the
The
flag
flag
of the
Of the
United
United
States
States
of
of
States of
America,
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 to the republic for
for
which it
which it
which it
stands,
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 one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
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 liberty,
with
with liberty
liberty,
and
justice
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 for
for all.
all. All right, boys and girls. I'm
Amen.
going to bed. Yeah, amen and amen.
amen, amen.
All right, guys. We will see you next time around, right? On Outlaw Radio. See you guys. Good night. All right. Good night, guys. It was great. Appreciated it, everybody.